shrinks, resorts making exiting nearly impossible. That's why I partner only with Lone Star Transfer. They have helped more than 40,000 owners exit legally and ethically through a simple guaranteed process. No surprise fees, no unused vacations, no stress. Please visit LoneStarTransfer.com or you can call 855-551-7066. Tell them Bill sent you today. On this Tuesday, forget about earthquakes. Tolerance is the biggest threat to the city of San Francisco, which is a shadow of what it used to be. Allowing miscreants to run wild has just about ruined a once great American metropolis. It's infuriating. I saw it firsthand Super Bowl weekend. The progressive left denies the debacle, but the display of substance abusers and mentally ill living on the streets is vivid and shameful. Few care about them, and they don't really care about themselves or their loved ones that they left behind. They are willing to die in pursuit of a fentanyl high. The progressive left live in a fantasy world where harm reduction and incredible wasteful spending are solutions to substance abuse. That is a foolish lie, and the result can be seen on the streets where mentally ill and emotionally damaged human beings roam around committing crimes and destroying social order. But not where Nancy Pelosi lives, in a Pacific Heights mansion. From there, the former Speaker of the House can see the sun sparkle on the bay. But she doesn't care to see the danger just 2 miles away from where she lives. The truth is, San Francisco has collapsed. Back in a moment. More Americans are switching to all-family pharmacy because getting medication should not depend on your insurance company telling you no. If you already know what works for you and want real medical freedom, you have to choose the right pharmacy. All Family Pharmacy handles everything, including the doctor's prescription, ships right to your door. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill, use code BILL10, save 10% on your next order. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. Going to be tracking a warm afternoon, mostly sunny, highs back towards the lower 60s, then into Wednesday, mostly sunny, 49 degrees. As we head off into Thursday afternoon, could see some isolated chances for some showers, highs into the mid-40s. By Friday, mostly cloudy, 51. Into Saturday, could be seeing some widespread chances of showers and temperatures into the upper 40s. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scott.
All the cool people are listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. So, congratulations.
We've got a few things to keep track of. In a rare moment of complete bipartisanship, both Democrats and Republicans in Congress agree Ghislaine Maxwell is a garbage human being. Yeah, we'll cover that here in just a little bit. Also, lawmakers in Missouri, we talked about this a little bit. They are going to get an earful today regarding taxes, but that's not the only rally that's happening this week when it comes to tax reform. All right, good morning. Mike Ferguson here. Happy Tuesday to you. On Thursday, there's going to be a rally in St. Charles, and that is demanding property tax reform at the local level. Bill Eigel, who, as you know, is running for county executive, he's going to be one of the speakers, and we're going to talk to him at 7:05. But let's go back to what's happening at the Capitol today. Just here in a little bit, there's going to be a rally in the Rotunda at the Missouri Capitol, keeping that pressure on lawmakers to reduce taxes, maybe even eliminate some taxes and restrain government. We talked to State Representative Ben Keithley, a member of the Missouri Freedom Caucus, about that on Monday's program, and here's the insight that he gave us.
You're going to be around when that gathering happens. I don't know how it's going to be, how big it's going to be. My guess is it's going to be pretty good size. What's the vibe in the legislature right now, particularly the Republican caucus, about how important it is to actually get something delivered, not just get something farther down the field, but actually get it to the governor's desk this year?
Well, I appreciate being here. I think a lot of legislators feel the pressure this year. It is the year to do it. Windows don't always open up to do these things for very long, and sometimes you have a single chance, a single year where things really kind of align. But to say nothing of the pressure that's on Missouri when other states are starting to move this direction. We don't want to be last. We don't want to be second to last. We don't want to wait for everyone else to go. We want to be first to get to zero income tax.
And what's the right way? I mean, the devil's always in the details on this. In your view, what is the right reform, the right way to do it and get it done? Because we're not anywhere near spring break necessarily just yet, so we're not at the halfway point. But when you look at what's being proposed and how the discussions are going over it, are we on the right track, or is there something you'd like to see specifically in whatever passes?
Well, I think it's moving the right direction. I don't think it's there right now. We have the governor's proposal that came through. I think the bare bones of it, what we're trying to do, gain to zero quickly within 5 years. That is what we should be looking at. And I think incorporating a lot of elements of property tax reform into that as well is the right direction to go. We know Missourians desperately need property tax reform as much as they need income tax reform. And so that's right. The mechanisms on how we do it and the revenue situation going forward for the next 5 years, that all needs to be worked out. And I'm glad the House is taking some time to really deliberate it. It's been in committee for a couple weeks. I think that's because the committee is really seriously working on it and trying to put a proposal out to the House floor that could actually be a final proposal that voters could vote on later this year.
Yeah, because when it comes to eliminating the tax, is that something that we have to vote on, or can the legislature pass something to get rid of the tax? I mean, to raise taxes, we have to go to the voters, but can the legislature eliminate them?
Well, in theory, the legislature could just go to a 0% income tax. The problem with that, though, is because of the way the taxes are set up in Article 10 of the Constitution, it requires some serious reform to how we do taxation in Missouri, and some of those things are in the Constitution, especially when we're talking about funding a lot of the revenue by getting rid of different exemptions in our current tax code. And doing that requires us to go to the vote of the people. We have to amend the Constitution to really do this properly, which means the voters are going to have a say on it.
The governor said something interesting to us when opening day happened, and we were at the Capitol, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised to hear him refer to a tax cut and changing the tax code, not just as taking less money and leaving more money in our pockets, but he was very clear that this is also about restraining government and restraining government spending and restraining government reach into our lives as well. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of politicians at that level who are going to voluntarily highlight that. Talk about that for a minute. About this isn't just about dollars and cents. How much of this is about preventing future overreach of government and current overreach of government?
Well, I think obviously restricting revenue helps us actually restrict the growth of government. Restricting the growth of revenue helps us restrict the growth of government. But I've been saying this about the income tax for a long time. It is also an immoral tax. It is the single biggest invasion of privacy. We go to every single Missouri citizen and we say, give us your bank account, tell us every dollar you earned, every dollar you spent. We want to know where it all came from. It's just a massive privacy violation. And we do it to every single Missourian every single year. It's not just a tax fiscal issue. This is a moral issue as well.
We are visiting with State Representative Ben Keithley. Just a quick cleanup question, then we move on to something else. Income tax and the property tax reforms, are those going to be in the same package, or are we talking about two different proposals?
Well, I think it still kind of remains to be seen how that works out. I'll say I think there's a really good argument to try to send one Article 10 provision to the voters. When you have two amendments in the same article, it's not there's the risk that they overlap, in which case only one can actually go forward. We saw that a few election cycles ago with medicinal marijuana. So I think the safest thing to do to be able to give voters tax reform on both property and income tax is to send one ballot measure for them to vote on. But there are different things that could be done with property tax and statute. My bill is moving forward, which is the one big, beautiful property tax bill that does a lot of different things to help strengthen Hancock provisions. So I would expect to see some different things done. But ideally, I would like to see one ballot measure sent to the voters for all of it.
Okay, so Rick, I guess related when it comes to economic growth, you mentioned Missouri not wanting to be left behind because other states are moving this direction. A lot of this has to do with making the state more attractive to employers, to businesses, to people wanting to move families here. Some of that has to do with regulations as well. What is the movement, if any, when it comes to dealing with over-regulation in the state, be it the Missouri version of the REINS Act or whatever it is? That seems to be something that's getting a lot more serious attention than we've seen in the last couple of years. Lip service in the last couple of years, but there seems to be actual movement on it this year.
Yeah, last year we did have a big victory on regulatory reform when we passed Missouri's anti-Chevron statute, which allows the courts to strike down red tape. But the legislature needs to do it too. After all, we are supposed to, constitutionally speaking, be the lawmaking body. And when we outsource that power to unelected bureaucrats, it's harmful for businesses. It's harmful for families in this state. We need to actually have legislative oversight. That's what the REINS Act does. We voted that out of committee last week on a 13-0 vote. Even Democrats see that the red tape has gotten out of control and that the legislature needs to take a more active role in that process. I'm looking forward to continuing to move that bill and really make a good stab at trying to cut down some of this red tape that's grown in our state over the last couple decades.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me, Ben, that makes sense for the Democrats to get on board with that, because you look at the specific areas around the state the Democrats represent, and if there's ever a need for economic development and entrepreneurialism, it's going to be in those areas, typically the urban areas and in some of the college areas, and that's going to hurt their constituents as much, probably more than in the more red areas.
That's absolutely right. I mean, it doesn't seem to stop them with opposing good, solid tax policy or public safety policy. Mm-hmm. Those things hit their areas the worst, yet we got to pull them kicking and screaming to do things like state control or to cut taxes or eliminate the city earnings tax. All of that stuff is restricting business growth in St. Louis and Kansas City, and those need to be our two economic engines. If St. Louis and Kansas City are going to fail, the state's not going to be far behind, and Missouri Republicans are doing everything they can to solve all the issues. Whether it be public safety and crime, whether it be tax, but at least on regulatory reform, we're finding some willing partners on this issue.
Okay, so the news nerds, the political junkies of us, we look ahead when you all get kind of going in earnest tonight, tomorrow. What are we looking at this week as some of the key things that are happening in Jefferson City this week?
Well, there's still things, our bills are still kind of coming out of committee. We had the first couple bills hit the floor in the House and then the Senate last week. Some stuff like some frivolous litigation, stopping that and curbing that. We had the Born Alive bill to make sure babies who survive botched abortions are able to receive medical treatment in Missouri. Things like that were passed off the House floor last week, and I'd expect to see some more stuff starting to move through the floor. Some things coming up, some debates that we'll be having are things like autonomous vehicles. And some other bills that have been coming out of committee over the first few weeks. But some of the things like the income tax and all still in committee, still working on those proposals and making sure they're ready to go.
Yeah, the autonomous vehicles thing, I got mixed feelings on that because I know it's technology. I know it's coming, but it just seems weird to me. And Waymo's had a lot of issues isolated, but they've had some issues. I know they're surveying St. Louis right now. What is the thinking in the legislature at this point? Because this doesn't strike me as a Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative thing. This is about, it's here. How are we going to address it?
Yeah, we have issues that just seem to cut right through the party, and you really have legislators thinking very independently on. And this looks like it's one of them. I have no interest in stopping the technology from coming out, and I think it'll hold Missouri back if we tried to do that, stifle the technology. But there is really a proper way to roll this out and an improper way to roll this out. And I think we need to be thinking very seriously about how it's going to affect the safety of our roads, how it's going to affect things like liability, both criminal and civil liability, when people get hurt with cars and they're autonomously driven. These are issues we've never really confronted before, and they're brand new concepts. And so it's going to be interesting having that debate and seeing where this goes.
Also, later on today, Patrick Tuohey from the Show Me Institute is going to be with us. That's going to happen around 8:05. And normally I don't sort of tease things that far out, but what's the biggest problem that's harming the city of St. Louis? Now, if you say the politicians, sure, But the biggest immediate problem right now, the biggest immediate detriment is the crime, is the violence. Well, the Show Me Institute has dug into the issue as they do, and they are holding a forum tonight. Starts at 4:30. Doors open at 4:30. Really, the event runs from around 5 to 6. It's going to be at the MAC West, the one in DePere, and they're going to be looking at possible solutions for the city of St. Louis. And if you want to be a part of that, you need to send it an RSVP, and you can do that by contacting the Show Me Institute. Just look at showmeinstitute.org for their events. But we're going to talk to Patrick Tuohey to get a preview about what they have found and what they're going to be discussing tonight. All right, this is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
This is News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton, and we're proud to be the official winter weather source for News Talk STL. The First Alert Weather Team is working hard to keep you ahead of the big weather changes and help you plan your day. So stay connected this winter with Channel 4 and News Talk STL.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alan Link, owner of the Dental Link. You've heard ads about teeth in a day, but did you know that you will be chewing on plastic, acrylic teeth? Here at the Dental Link, we can give you porcelain crown and bridge teeth utilizing mini dental implants that function much more like real teeth at about half the cost. Plus, mini dental implants are less invasive, less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter. Give us a call at 314-794-6464 or simply visit us today at thedentallink.com.
If you're worried about losing your health insurance through Medicaid, we have great news for you. New government regulations have expanded the Affordable Care Act. And now, you may qualify to get health insurance for you and your family through the Affordable Care Act. Call now to learn if you qualify. We know the healthcare regulations regarding Medicaid, and we've helped thousands of people find quality, affordable health insurance. Plus, all our research is free to you. So call us. With just one call, we'll shop from hundreds of different insurance companies to find you the right affordable health insurance plan. So if you're worried about losing your Medicaid insurance, call right now. Speak with a licensed agent and find how you may qualify for a new health insurance plan.
800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. That's 800-479-0931. Paid for by the Health Insurance Hotline. People ask all the time, who the heck is Low Cost Airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rates you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, let me start by saying this is the stuff that that just drives me nuts. What I'm about to talk about here, public officials being rewarded for abusing their power.
Oh, I hate that.
This is a story that we covered Yeah, over 2 years ago, long before you came to the station, back when we were still downtown, in Baldwin, the police chief got run out on a rail. And that was kind of a story. We had it, in the news dump. We're thinking, man, this is really weird. What's going on? This guy's been a cop for 30 plus years. Before he was at Baldwin, he was in Richmond Heights. And so we kind of found out all of a sudden, why did the chief get run out of town? And, well, what ended up happening is we found out is that the police chief drove a patrol car, not only just on personal time while he was in uniform, while he was drunk.
Oh.
But that's, I would say, as bad as that is, I'm not going to diminish it, the abuse of his power was arguably worse. Okay, so here's what it comes down to is that it turns out that then police chief of Baldwin, Douglas Schaefer, basically ran kind of the internal government background check systems, like where they can access and just run a check on anybody they want. He ran it on over 1,000 people with no reason. At one point, there were people who questioned something at city council meetings about policing, which is what you're supposed to do. And they found out that, he just who's that guy? Runs a check.
Jeez.
And there was over 1,000 of this. No reason, no suspicion, no investigation, just, I wonder. At least that's what it comes out to. So he ended up being fired in 2025, and then he ends up suing for wrongful termination.
What?
Yeah, right.
What?
Yeah, I know. So here's the thing, is that the city council in Baldwin, at the end of last year, we're now finding out, in August of 2025, not the end of last year, the August of 2025, before it ended up being finalized in December, voted to settle with him for a $200,000 payout. But that wasn't the only part of it, though. They also agreed, and we've seen this in some other golden parachute situations, basically to then pay another $10,000 into the retirement system on his behalf, basically, and change the effective dates of him leaving in order for him to fully qualify for his pension system as well. So he's basically can retire now, but they played with the dates on it so that he can get, I guess, more vested or get a different. So I get that you want the path of least resistance. I've been on a city council or board of aldermen, so I understand that. Sometimes you've got an accountant, you got a city manager saying, listen, we can spend this money here, or we can end up going to court, and by the time this is protracted, it can cost us even more. So I get that, but at some point, isn't the job of the city government to throw down the line and say, no, we won't tolerate this. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and we're not making the people of our community pay somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars to go away after we fired you for abusing your position, especially in law enforcement.
Quite literally, this essentially could be reduced down to we took the money from the taxpayers to pay you after we found out you were abusing the taxpayers.
Right,
I mean,
right.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And, so I'm not demonizing every member of the Baldwin City Council. I don't know what the vote was, whether it was unanimous or split or whatever the case is. But what we're finding out now is just a raw deal for the people of Baldwin. Mm-hmm. A raw deal, obviously, for this part of St. Louis County. And we've seen it time and time. We just had a similar situation in St. Charles County with the police chief who had been kind of run out, and then they backdated everything so that he could get his pension, all that sort of thing. And so basically it's what's the path of least resistance so that we can make the change, and it ends up costing taxpayers more money. So when you get to that, I guess, level at some point, you get taken care of, even if you effed up the situation really bad.
Yeah.
So, I will get into that a little bit more. By the way, later on today at the state capitol, there is the Road to Zero rally, putting the pressure on the lawmakers to deliver when it comes to those tax reforms. We're going to talk to Dennis Ganahl from Mo Tax Relief Now in about 35 minutes.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Speaking to David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, tell Chris and I about Waymo, these robo-taxis.
That is pretty obvious that these cars are much safer than human-driven cars. And much like I like horses, I like humans.
Dave, my God, man, they're killing cats.
I'm not an expert, but I do believe in the history of America that probably some human driving cars also run over a cat.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today.
800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380. Paid for by U.S. Med.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Rich Thomason. Savannah Guthrie says she and her siblings are at an hour of desperation. 10 days have passed, and the mother of the Today Show co-host still missing. The status of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie is unknown as her family appeals to the public to come forward with any information that could be helpful to law enforcement. Family members say they're willing to meet a ransom demand, but we know of no contact with the kidnappers. The Justice Department is allowing members of Congress to review unredacted files relating to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
In a letter to lawmakers, the DOJ said members will have access to the more than 3 million files released by the department. To access the files, lawmakers will need to give the administration 24 hours notice, and they will be able to review the files on computers at the Department of Justice. Only lawmakers, not their staff, will have access to the files. President Trump wants to move on from the issue, but many questions remain about Epstein and his connections. Greg Clugston, Washington.
All is far from well, and conditions are worsening in communist Cuba, where authorities are now warning airlines that they may not be able to refuel on the island.
This is part of energy rationing as the Trump administration cuts Cuba off from its fuel sources. The shortage stems from U.S. political pressure severing Cuba's access to oil from Venezuela and Mexico. Shorter flights may not be affected, but long-haul routes face challenges. The energy crisis has led to reduced bank hours, suspended cultural events, and halted public transport. U.S. sanctions have long impacted Cuba, but recent measures have intensified the situation. Keith? Peters, Washington.
Wall Street futures modestly higher at the moment. The Dow futures are up 32 points. NASDAQ futures better by 16. S&P futures 9 points higher. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. I've always been a strong believer in precious metals investment, and I've always been fascinated with rare coin collecting. But owning the wrong coins that only make dealers a lot of money can be catastrophic for your investment portfolio. AmFed Coin and Bullion specializes in taking people out of non-performing coin portfolios and turning them into gold, silver, or platinum bullion. They tailor a portfolio based on your goals and not what they want to sell you. You'll never experience scare tactics, misleading hype, or high-pressure sales from owner Nick Grovich and his very knowledgeable staff. They will evaluate your portfolio, show you how your coins have performed, and take the time to educate you on the ugly industry practices so that you can make an informed decision. Smart people can make very bad investments when they're under pressure and lack the facts. Call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com.
President Trump threatens...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. Going to be tracking a warm afternoon, mostly sunny. Highs back towards the lower 60s. Then into Wednesday, mostly sunny, 49 degrees. As we head off into Thursday afternoon, could see some isolated chances for some showers. Highs into the mid-40s by Friday, mostly cloudy, 51. Into Saturday, could be seeing some widespread chances of showers and temperatures into the upper 40s. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
42% of Missouri fourth graders can barely read. 42%. It's the worst result in 20 years. If kids can't read by third grade, they fall behind in school, and many never catch up. But other states have provided a roadmap for success. Missouri needs one universal reading test for all third graders and one clear statewide standard for what it means to pass that test. A struggling reader who still can't read after extra help and a second chance at the test should repeat third grade with some exemptions. We also need to end the outdated 3Qing method, which encourages guessing instead of reading, and require teachers to be trained in the science of reading. In Mississippi and Indiana, test scores jumped up dramatically after these reforms, and Missouri can do the same. Missouri children deserve to become confident, capable readers, and strong early literacy reforms can make it happen. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by the Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
News, analysis, opinion.
The president has made his priority quite clear.
Iran says it's ready for dialogue.
Why don't we lower the temperature? Some of these individuals do come from out of state. Are they being paid?
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
Big guy, one of the biggest in the world.
Susie Moore.
Do you think he's ready?
He's not ready.
Get up, St. Louis.
I have a feeling that by the end of this evening, I'm going to be blamed for everything.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, all Ghislaine apparently did was try to make a deal to get out of prison. That was her entire motivation for showing up.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. Well, turns out she's still in prison.
Well, like I said, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works, yeah. Is the city getting safer or is it getting more dangerous? You can be part of that discussion today. This is interesting here. Also, the Illini drop, but the Billikens rise in the latest polls. And it's the first T-shirt day of 2026.
Yeah, look at you.
I know. I'm like...
And you.
I'm like, hey, let's take advantage
I came in without
of
a coat. That's
true.
That's my concession.
You got a T-shirt underneath.
I do. I have my
incredibly fashionable pullover that you've got right there.
Exactly.
Oh, man. All right. It is 6:06 right now. There's a lot of news going on, especially around here in the area. Let's go ahead and get started with the news dump here.
Successful dump.
Wake up, America.
It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
All right, we're going to start in Washington, D.C., and we just talked to Congressman Bob Onder about this yesterday. Republicans, Democrats bitterly divided over federal agents wearing masks, and that conflict matters as Congress works to avert another partial government shutdown.
Facing Friday's midnight deadline, lawmakers are locked in a debate over funding Homeland Security. And a central question is whether to ban face masks by immigration enforcement officers. The House Democratic leader says unmasking the federal agents is a hard red line in the negotiations. But most Republicans say the current political climate leaves the immigration officers exposed to harassment if their faces and identities are made public. Greg Clugston, Washington.
All right, I got to think that unless you are just ensconced in one of the tribes and you're really, really invested in this war, which it's become, most of America looks at this position that I think the hard fringe left is taking with disgust, even many of those on the left. I've got to think that's my sense is what's happening.
I think anyone who's looking at it not ideologically has to feel that way. I mean, from the same people who brought you, everybody has to wear a mask everywhere all the time, or you're going to jail, this doesn't make sense. Should there be a way to properly identify agents so that if they misbehave, if they, do something, violate someone's rights, they can be held accountable? 100%.
Yes.
That's what a badge number's for.
Right. The bottom line is I think the left, fringe left, the ideological, that's a good word, is they want to be able to dox law enforcement officers and their families.
I feel like every day we're seeing a story about someone who's being detained because they were either in the process of or on their, were threatening to go harm someone's family because they, are part of ICE. Look at what happened in the church in Minneapolis or St. Paul. I mean, it's
jurors in the George Floyd case back a few years ago. There were families that there were jurors that ended up with threatening stuff at their homes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a reason to, when you've got threats like daily against people or a group of people, protecting their identity to a certain extent is just common sense.
Not to mention the fact that there was an individual recently arrested for posting online. They have a significantly large following online, but was openly calling for, at this location right now, everybody show up with your guns. We're going to do an armed uprising against ICE agents right now.
Right.
And then got arrested. And now, again, unless you are immediately thinking, well, if we get rid of the mask, then we'll know who to go after, there's really not a reason.
What does it matter?
The law enforcement shouldn't have to want to wear the masks in the first place, but they're not in a position for doing this sort of work where they really have a choice at this point.
What the heck does Antifa do?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
We get to wear masks. You can't, but you have to if it's COVID, but you can't.
Corporeal Being had a solution saying, just tell them all it's to keep safe from COVID.
Yeah,
that's true.
Precisely. All right. Convicted child sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell refused to answer questions during that virtual House deposition on Monday. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer said Maxwell could be more willing to testify, but she wants President Trump to step in.
Her attorney said that she would answer questions if she were granted clemency.
Yeah, there's no indication the president's going to do that, at least not at this point, and nor should he.
No, especially considering the news that broke overnight of the information in the file where he was saying that she was evil.
Yeah. Do you think you've got somebody who, despite being in prison, sentenced to 20 years, feels that she is more important than she actually is at this point?
I'm starting to kind of get that impression.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, she kind of is, though. I can't imagine anybody else that we would actually have in captivity right now that would actually be able to answer some of the questions a lot of people have, even if that answer is, oh, yeah, it was just me and Jeffrey this entire time, and everybody else we use as smokescreen. That's still an answer. I don't know if we still have Guantanamo Bay, but I think I want to. Okay, so send me down there with her, and I will get you some answers. I promise you.
That might not be legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she does seem to have kind of an out. I guess, yes, she has some knowledge that people would like. I'm not sure really how much that's not already documented.
Right. Yeah, well, and speaking of that, Congressman Ro Khanna, the Democrat out of California, was visiting the Department of Justice on Monday to review the unredacted documents, which have now been offered to members of Congress. Thomas Massey and some others also visited there. And here's part of what Ro Khanna had to say to reporters.
None of this is designed to be a witch hunt. Just because someone may be in the files doesn't mean that they're guilty. But there are very powerful people who raped these underage girls. It wasn't just Epstein and Maxwell, or showed up to the island or showed up to the ranch.
Okay, and so that's really, I mean, and on policy stuff, I'm not going to agree with Ro Khanna on a whole lot, but on this, I think he's been very, very solid.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's very hard to separate out the partisan motivation, but at the same time, I agree with what the substance of what he's saying.
Right. Yep, precisely. All right, other things going on. Is the city getting better or getting worse when it comes to crime and public safety? Yeah, the Show Me Institute is hosting a public forum on that tonight. It's called Examining Crime and Public Safety Trends in St. Louis, and it's happening at the MAC West. So this is the one in De Pere. The doors open at 4:30. The event actually runs from like 5 to 6. Reservations are required. You can still get them today. So email, here's the email address if you want to attend. events@showmeinstitute.org to save your spot. They're not taking walk-ins for this. So just go ahead and get your reservation.
Plan ahead.
But again, they are free. And we're going to talk to Patrick Tuohey, who's one of the presenters, at 8:05 on this. All right, let's see here. You know what? Here's another follow-up to the discussion we had with Bob Onder. President Trump demanding passage of the SAVE Act, or the new version of the SAVE Act.
Save America Act.
Yeah, Save America Act, that requires voter ID and proof of citizenship. Senator Eric Schmidt was asked about that on Fox's The Faulkner Focus.
We want the return of common sense. We want to make sure people are who they say they are. We want to make sure our elections are secure and that people aren't disenfranchised, the people who actually are supposed to vote, by allowing people who aren't supposed to vote actually vote.
Okay, so here's where I read the copy where somebody on the other side was asked. Okay, so I'm just going to read this. The Brennan Center for Justice, which is obviously on the left, in case you weren't familiar with it. The Brennan Center for Justice says the bill would, and I'm quoting, undermine Americans' freedom to vote, saying that many Americans do not have a passport and that millions lack access to a copy of their birth certificate. Who lacks access to...
Actually, there's a lot of older Americans who do. A lot.
That lacks access to their birth certificate?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. That doesn't, it's not an insurmountable
right.
hurdle.
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of reasons that you would need to go get it and make some sort of accommodation, but that's not untrue.
Right.
There are a lot of Americans who can't just readily access their birth certificate.
But every Secretary of State's office, to my knowledge, has like a dedicated team or office that will help you get whatever documents are required. So to say that it's a insurmountable.
It's a red herring.
It's completely a red herring.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a bunch of baloney. And I don't think anyone buys it, which is why the vast majority of Americans, Democrat, Republican, and Independent alike, support voter ID.
Right. Now, this needs to be done in the right way, because I do think we're tossing out or ignoring parts of the Constitution to say elections actually are state run.
Yes, but it also, have you read all of Article 1, Section 4?
Yeah.
Because it also says Congress can address that. So there's room for them. And on federal elections, I think there is plenty of room there.
Yeah, so which is why it's just got to be done the right
way.
I
Correct.
mean, we want to make sure there's a reason for that we have that. So, all right, one more thing here. The Billikens move up one spot in both the main basketball polls this week. In the AP poll, SLU is now ranked 18th in the nation. In the coaches poll, Billikens are 19th.
Wow.
SLU is 23-1. The Illini, they drop in both polls after their loss to Michigan this weekend. That is expected. The AP has the Illini at number 8, and the coaches rank them 7th. Illinois plays Wisconsin on the road tonight. And the Billikens play Loyola. I don't know why I always mess up. Loyola in Chicago on Friday.
Well, there you go again, listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
I've got Dr. Michael Lewis here, West Point graduate, physician, and retired Army colonel. Is considered the world's leading expert on the use of omega-3s for traumatic brain injury and concussions. Stuart Tomp brings over 30 years of experience in the supplement industry, brought $1 billion of products to the market, and has appeared in over 6,000 media interviews worldwide, and travels internationally and teaches on health.
Stuart Tomp here, and I've come across the biggest breakthrough in personalized nutrition
I've seen in 25 years.
Dr. Lewis here. For the first time, we can measure cellular and gut health. So you can start testing and stop guessing and make decisions based on real data. I'm working with world-class scientists and physicians, and what they're doing is changing everything.
You can message me at elizabeth@statmedicalllc.com. That is Elizabeth at statmedicalllc.com.
Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com is your one-stop shop for expert insured tree care and more in the greater St. Louis region and at the Lake of the Ozarks. Visit hansonstree.com for 24/7 emergency tree care, grinding and land clearing, awesome organic mulch, green resource recycling, and more. Tim Jones here to tell you that whether you're dealing with old man winter at your home or business in the St. Louis region or preparing your lake home for spring, call Hanson's to help you out. No job too big or too small. Mention News Talk STL. Receive 10% off all tree care services. hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
You're keeping in step in the line. Got your chin held high and you feel just fine 'cause you do what you're told. But inside your heart it is black and it's hollow and it's cold. Just how deep do you believe? Will you bite that hand that feeds?
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here, waiting for you for the 3 Martini Lunch, the Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Now back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, in just a second here, I don't want to make anybody unduly nervous, okay? But we figured out what Red Tuesday is. You mentioned this in the Tell Me Something Good yesterday.
No.
You didn't?
And I checked. I was like, I don't remember Red Tuesday.
You said something about
Giving
Red...
Hearts Day.
No, I thought you said Red
Flannel
Tuesday.
Day.
Flannel
and I forgot
Day?
to wear my flannel.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I could have sworn you said like Red
Valentine's
Tuesday because
Day?
we were all like, well, what's that mean? I don't know. Well, okay. But it's Red Tuesday, and I figured out what that means.
Yep.
So we'll get to that in just a second. Now, listen, just most of you can relax. I don't think it's going to befall you, but maybe some of you. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All right, 6:19 right now. Before we get to that, we got our buddy Dave on the line here. So, Dave, I got a couple things I need to get to, but the floor is yours. I got about 90 seconds for you. Oh, do we have Dave?
Dave?
I think we lost Dave. All right, no worries. Okay. So, Red Tuesday, which I did not know about this.
She's wearing red.
Yeah,
Angela Huddy's wearing red.
She is.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder
a signal.
I wonder if she knows what that means.
I don't know.
Okay, because according to the article I found on this, today is Red Tuesday. This is the day of the year that you are most likely to get dumped, to get broken up with.
Because no one wants the obligation of Valentine's Day.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The Tuesday before Valentine's Day.
Whew.
That's rough.
Yeah.
I don't know how they come up with that, but that's how they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, the science behind the polling there might not be exact.
Maybe not.
But, I do think that legitimately people do break up before like a big birthday, Christmas, or Valentine's Day if they just feel like it's not going, because then it's like you're obligated to get some nice gift or do something romantic, and it's just not.
Yeah. So the survey, and if you can't believe reporting from the Star, who can you report?
Well, this is true.
That's true. The survey that they cited found that around 1 in 4 people have broken up with somebody the week before Valentine's Day.
I'm trying to, I would have to go back and really think about that. I can promise that I've never broken up with somebody because Valentine's Day was approaching.
Yeah.
I do know that. And I don't feel like I ever was on the receiving end of that. There was a Christmas one. I don't know.
I personally know somebody that broke up with their current person because Valentine's Day was approaching and they did not want to spend it with the person that they were already with. They had found somebody that they wanted to go on a date with.
Well, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that one didn't work out either. So
that's not a terrible surprise. I guess the point is, if there's somebody else you would rather be with, then you do need to break up.
You should break up with them. Yeah, I mean, so basically, the matchmaker that the Star talked to, says that this is most pronounced to nobody's surprise if you're in a new relationship.
Well, of
obviously.
course. If you're, I mean, Yeah. If it's a long-term relationship, there's a whole other host of things that have little to do with Valentine's Day.
See, I was going to like comment. I'm like, oh, I better not, because it's going to sound like sexist or misogynistic. But it was just an observation. You talk about that you'd never been on the receiving end of that, and you didn't remember. You don't think you've ever broke up with somebody. I'm like, but wouldn't it stand to reason that if somebody's going to get dumped right before Valentine's Day, that it would be the dude doing the breaking up, because traditionally he's the one who's going to spend all the money?
Nope.
You don't think so?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, that's not misogynist, but it's sexist.
Well, maybe that's why I'm like, do I say it or not? Because
no, I mean, like,
because the expectation is that we're the ones
I don't think
who
you should be canceled for it. No, I don't know. I've been around long enough and seen enough relationships with people to know that's a two-way street. For every guy you can bring up as an example, there's a girl that's done the same thing.
Yeah, I have never expected when I was dating, obviously before marriage, I've never expected the gal that I was working with, or not dating or involved with, whatever. Sorry, I'm in business mode. I never expected the woman with whom I was in a relationship to spend anything on Valentine's Day. I always expected that to be me doing something for her.
What the heck?
That's just how I always looked at it.
What?
I don't understand.
Yeah.
You're in a relationship. It's two people. You're giving each other a gift or a card or something.
Now, you can give her the money and a list of things you want her to buy for you, but that's supposed to be an expression of here, we appreciate each other.
But for dinner, that was I expected. I was the one who would pay. The gift would be me for her to give her something.
I don't understand this.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've been being shortchanged all my life because I've been reciprocal in my gift giving as opposed to just expecting them all to be given to me.
Yeah.
That's how I guess I need some relationship advice.
No, I think you're doing okay.
And I'm still in the market. What if I find a date and they're like, well, I heard Mike talking about how you're supposed to only buy me stuff.
I just ruined it for you.
I think
deprived me of a gift.
I think if you make the plans, like you say, we're going to go to dinner here, or I've made reservations here. I think if you're the one that does the inviting, then you buy dinner. And that whenever the time, whatever the occasion is. So that to me is just a matter of who's actually taking the initiative on the date. For gift-giving purposes, why would it only be one way?
That's just how I've always kind of thought of it.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
That is.
Is Christmas like that too?
No.
Birthdays aren't like that, right?
Yeah, but see, I don't really make a big deal out of my birthday.
Yeah, but you give gifts to other people on their birthdays?
I give gifts to other people on their birthday. Right. Yeah, I just never really.
Yeah, I don't know,
my
Mike.
Birthday too much.
I don't know. I just feel like maybe I've been looking at it wrong all these years. Apparently, I've been too generous and too giving. I don't know.
We got some good comments, actually. So Matthew says, I've made it through 30 Red Tuesdays, 25 of those married, so I think I'm in good shape today. So I would actually like to
Congratulations, Matthew.
How many of those years were you both sending each other gifts, and how many were just you giving gifts? Because you sound very credible in this. Scooter says, if you break up before Valentine's Day, you probably had a rocky Christmas or New Year. That's quite interesting. And 101 says that this Red Tuesday thing sounds just like another reason to be an emo.
That sounds legit.
I mean, is Valentine's Day a big deal with you and your significant other?
I mean, we make plans, we do stuff. It's not like,
right.
Stop everything. Oh my gosh.
Dinner, show, something.
Yeah.
Movie,
we've been together for a long time. So but yes, I mean, we have plans. We're going to do something. We give each other cards and gifts, but it's not over the top.
Yeah. Now, what about this? Is it a big deal? Like one of the things that I learned a long time ago, you don't have to celebrate Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day, because getting a reservation at any decent restaurant is almost impossible.
Yeah, we're going to do Valentine's Day brunch, actually.
You are going to do, okay, yeah. Because other times it's you can do it another day and just celebrate it on a different day because you just can't get the reservation on Valentine's Day.
Word to the wise, next year in 2027, Valentine's Day is Super Bowl Sunday.
That was poor planning on somebody's part.
Well, I think Cupid's been set on February 14th all along, so we got to talk to Roger Goodell.
You wonder whose Cupid is, who he's betting on.
I don't know, but just keep that in mind.
Okay. All right. I want to go into more depth on this, I think, in the 7 o'clock hour.
Okay.
But there's a bill. Of course, we just had, in Missouri over the last year and a half, the debate over the minimum wage. Of course, it just went up again. And that's kind of is a constant. minimum wage debate around the state. Small businesses, fight back against that because it hurts them and that sort of thing. So in the 7 o'clock hour, I want everybody to kind of be thinking about this. There's actually a proposal on the Missouri legislature to create a 2-tiered minimum wage system and lower the minimum wage for minors. If you're under 18, the minimum wage, because I think the minimum wage in Missouri now is what, $15 an hour, 15. I think, and it would be $12 and something if you're under 18, specifically. Now, once you hit 18, they required to pay you whatever the state's minimum wage is, just like everybody else, but it would be a different one for minors. Of course, labor unions and other groups like that are not happy about this whatsoever. I don't know how realistic this would have to make it through the legislature. Republicans still have kind of a bad look in the eyes of a lot of people, even though they were right on the policy in undoing some of that referendum that was done that was hurting small businesses. So they have the right policy, but they just have to understand they're taking some lumps because it is a bad look, even if they were right on the issue.
Sure.
This is a follow-up to say, well, we're going to change the law so that some people would get paid less than before.
Okay.
So in the 7 o'clock hour, I want to talk about that. It's interesting. What's your initial gut reaction to that?
I mean, the companies that can already afford to pay above minimum wage regardless, I don't think that they're going to have any issues with that. It would be the companies that actually need cheaper, lesser skilled labor for cheaper that are going to now have less people that are of that variety applying to them, because if you're 17 and you can go work somewhere and make more money, why would you not just go do that?
Well, that's also a market response, though.
Yeah, my response, my initial reaction to that is that there's going to be a huge pushback.
Yeah.
Particularly from the people that are working minimum wage but are over 18 because you're maybe displacing them out of jobs.
You're undercutting them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're 18, 19, 20 and you're trying to get started, you're trying to afford your apartment, your first apartment or whatever the case is or whatever, and the boss goes, "Ooh, I can have this 19-year-old at 15, but I can have this 17-year-old at $12 and whatever." I got a thin margins.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I have something anecdotal that I think fits into this as well, but you said 720? We're going to
705.
705.
No, it's not 705 because we got Bill Eigel at 705. It is 735.
735. Okay, I'll save it for 735.
Yeah, we'll do it at 735. So I got some thoughts on that. Let us know what your take is on this. There are pros and there are cons to it. I mean, basically, minimum wage laws essentially knock the bottom rungs off the ladder for a lot of people. And like I think you said, Jerome, the big corporations, they like it when you raise the minimum wage because that eliminates some of their smaller, more nimble competition.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for them.
I've done the math, and because a lot of people will say, well, you can't cut taxes. How dare you try to cut taxes? It affects everybody. Just raise the wages. And mathematically speaking, if you were to keep raising the wages, who are the people that are going to benefit is the Amazons, the Walmarts, people like that can already afford to take the hits, which ironically are the same corporations that you're trying to raise the wages to punish. So
Amazon just had a big layoff.
Yeah.
Like 30,000 layoffs, as well. So yeah, it's an interesting question. There's the right and the wrong on the policy, but if I'm a lawmaker, a Republican lawmaker in Jefferson City, I'm going to tread really, really lightly right now, especially if any sort of blow up over something like this could endanger some bigger policy issues and goals as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Missouri lawmakers, speaking of laws, they're going to hear from conservatives at the Capitol today, and the message is clear. Deliver that tax reform you've been promising. At 6:35, we'll get the update from one of the organizers of today's rally.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The city of St. Charles is considering a permanent ban on data centers. David Stokes will give us the details from last night's public hearing today at 4:20.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. Going to be tracking a warm afternoon, mostly sunny. Highs back towards the lower 60s. Then into Wednesday, mostly sunny, 49 degrees as we head off into Thursday afternoon. Could see some isolated chances for some showers, highs into the mid-40s by Friday, mostly cloudy, 51. Into Saturday, could be seeing some widespread chances of showers and temperatures into the upper 40s. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribune, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient, you're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
License number GL2500615.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Home power used to be simple. Now the car plugs in, the scooter plugs in, the space heater plugs in, and your electric panel starts popping.
That sounds bad, but I like popcorn.
Popcorn is great, sparks are not. Call Grasser. We'll upgrade your panel so you can run it all.
Electric and plumbing, the Grasser way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
Thanks for being my voice in all this.
This is News Talk STL.
There are people out there that feel the way that I feel and say what I say.
Welcome home.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy, Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, we've had the interviews here. I'm sure all the other conservative media has it as well. We're getting a lot of Republican lawmakers telling us, yep, we're going to deliver that tax reform this year. We're going to do it this session. No more messing around. Promises, promises.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of promises before. Now, listen, I don't question the sincerity of our friends who've been on these shows. None at all. But something always seems to get in the way on some of the big stuff over the last
Proof
few
is in
years.
the pudding.
And the grassroots is not letting up this year.
No.
Matter of fact, in just hours, there's going to be a rally at the Missouri Capitol, and our friends from Americans for Prosperity Missouri and our friends from Mo Tax Relief Now are putting this together. And among those organizers of that is Dennis Ganahl from Mo Tax Relief Now, who joins us right now. And Dennis, I mean, you know, the agenda is set. I mean, the goal is set. The governor and the lawmakers say they're on board. So why is it important to make sure that there's a presence and there is a presence at the Capitol to keep the pressure on here? They've all already promised they're going to give us big tax reform. Why is it crucial that people around the state are going to be at the Capitol today?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on, Mike. Well, it's important to keep the pressure on to just remind people how important it is. And down at the Capitol, the one thing that I have found the last 3 years is that the only people out there speaking for taxpayers are Mo Tax Relief Now, Americans for Prosperity, and Americans for Tax Reform. Everybody else is a paid lobbyist, and the paid lobbyists are always working against any kind of tax relief.
Good morning, Dennis. This is Susie. What is today's event going to look like? I mean, I assume that there's going to be some rallying outside around the Capitol, but is there going to be, visiting with the legislators inside the Capitol as well?
Yeah, our goal, Susie, isn't to disrupt the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of weeks ago, there were, a lot of liberals down there, screaming in the halls and trying to obstruct people walking down the halls to get their point across. That's not our style. Our style is we're bussing in people from Kansas City, St. Louis, and Springfield, and we're going to meet on the third floor. Everybody's going to be given materials. We've got a route through the Capitol plan so that every legislator's office is going to get collateral materials and a challenge coin that we developed for them that says the road to zero. And then afterwards, we're going to come back. We're going to have some speakers, eat lunch, and then everybody's going to go visit their own personal legislator and ask them to make sure that they are going to vote and move this bill through.
Now, there's a variety of ideas on how to do this, and this is what I keep coming back to when we talk to the lawmakers and we talk to folks like yourself who are just involved in the process here. I don't know that there's any just one right answer, but what should the right answer include? Because I'm sure there's different ways we can accomplish the goal of tax reform and even eliminating some taxes. So what are some basics that you want people talking to their lawmakers about? Because there's probably somebody who's listening or watching us right now, Dennis, who says, I would love to be there, but I've got to be at work, but I can make a call. I can send an email. What is it that we need to make sure is included in whatever the final answer is?
Well, that's a great question, Mike. I mean, the number one thing about Missouri's, how it brings together its revenue is the fact that it works against the taxpayer. It works on behalf of the government. So it guarantees the government, a certain amount of increases every year, based on CPI or whatever. And they've created all kinds of new loopholes in the Hancock. So the one thing that the zero income tax is, what we want to do is we want to close the loopholes. Realtors want loopholes. Everybody wants a loophole. Everybody says, well, we shouldn't have to pay these taxes. So the first goal of this thing is to close the loopholes, which is going to make it more fair for Missouri's families so that they're going to be paying the same types of rates and the same types of taxes as everybody else. The other thing here is what we're trying to do is grow Missouri's economy. Missouri's economy, except for taxes, is stagnant. Our population has been stagnant for decades. Our economy is stagnant for decades. New companies aren't moving here. And what research shows from ATR and others is that when states have zero income tax, and pretty soon all the states surrounding Missouri are going to have zero. I mean, they've all committed to it. Missouri has committed, but we haven't done it. All the other states have too. So pretty soon, if people want to settle in the Midwest, grow their business or whatever, if they're not zero, they're going to be losing. And so we're trying to grow the economy so we can keep the Missouri resources we've built through the education system, our kids, and we can keep them in Missouri and offer them great jobs.
And just let me jump in real quick. Has Illinois committed to that too? Illinois, because they love their taxes in Illinois.
Yeah, they do. But I'll tell you, under income tax, they've got a flat tax. Even they have a flat tax. My son just moved back from Illinois to Missouri on a promise that we were going to have zero. And he told me that their income tax is just about as good as Missouri's at this point. Now they tax everything else.
Right.
But yeah, they're not, even on income tax. So that's the whole idea. We want to close the loopholes. We want to grow Missouri's economy, and we want to make taxes more fair, and we want people to pay less on their taxes. And the first way to start is to not tax their income, tax their consumption.
Right.
Tax their consumption.
Yes. Dennis, I know and we keep kind of hearing reports that, this is in committee, different ideas are being bandied about. They're working on this. This does seem to be something that has momentum behind it that a lot of the lawmakers and the governor seem to be on board with. So this seems like that, it's time to strike while the iron is hot. But what, if any, obstacles or hiccups do you foresee on this issue? Because, obviously until we get it across the finish line, it's
just a promise.
It's just a promise. Exactly.
Right. Well, it's been heard in the Commerce Committee, and it received very cold reception from the Democrats and a lot of the people who live on taxes. So we expected all that opposition. But right now, what our understanding is there's members on the committee that are restructuring the bill to make the bill even better for Missouri's taxpayers. And so we're waiting to see that bill. I've got every confidence in the members on that committee to come up with a good, competitive bill that's going to pass the House. The big problem this year is going to, as almost every year, is the Senate. And so we're planning the second half of this session to really have to put the pressure on the Senate to make sure that it gets into a good committee, number one. We'd like to see it go to Senator Ben Brown's committee. We think that would be a great place for this bill to get heard. And then we'd like to get it immediately to the Rules Committee, but then the Democrats are going to obstruct, which they promised to do. And the Republicans, I don't know that it was wisely or not, but they increased the benchmark for busting up a filibuster to 18. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but we're confident we can get it across the finish line.
Yeah, we just spoke with Camellia Peterson about that just last week. She was not happy with that. We're visiting with Dennis Ganahl from Mo Tax Relief now. Who's actually speaking at today's rally, and is this something that's going to be streamed, or you got to be there to be part of it?
Yeah, we're not as sophisticated as you guys, Mike. So it won't be streamed, but that's a great idea for next year or in the future efforts. Thanks. Today we've got Representative Ben Keithley, I know one of your favorites.
Yep, definitely.
And Bishop Davidson down from Springfield. He's on the budget committee. He's been very involved working on and those two guys I think are working on the bill in the House right now. So he's going to be speaking, and then we'll have Senator Brown, and we're going to have Senator Curtis Trent, and we've invited others, Patterson, we've invited Laughlin, we've invited some people, but they're busy, got very busy schedules, and we're not sure who's all going to be able to make it or not.
Yeah. Now, by the way, Bishop Davidson, when this Road to Zero actually predates all of this, this goes back to our event with AFP Missouri with Glenn Jacobs that was months ago here. Bishop Davidson, like you said, he's just so people understand, he's from the Springfield area. He actually came all the way to St. Louis just to attend that event, and that's the last time I talked to him in person. I've talked to him on the phone, I think, once or twice since then, but that's how invested he is in this.
Oh, Bishop works really, really hard, and it's year-round. You know, so when we started talking about this a couple of years ago, Bishop was in contact with us, and he stays in contact with us, contacting us regularly. And I know he and Ben have always got their heads together thinking about different ways to handle the bill and write the bill. So I'm sure they're going to come up with something great.
Dennis, this is one of those things that I think for people who maybe are busy with their everyday lives and not completely dialed in on, it might be a little confusing because there's obviously the push for the Road to Zero and doing away with the state income tax, and that's getting a lot of attention, and there seems to be a lot of momentum for that. But there's also the talk about property taxes, and is today's event focused on one or both of those? And if it's only focused on the income tax aspect of it, what else can Missourians be looking for in terms of some relief on property taxes?
That's a great question. Low tax relief now, all we worry about is tax relief. So we got a great bill passed out of committee last week called the One Big Beautiful Property Tax Bill. And that's from the Special Interim Property Tax Committee that worked all year to gather testimony and things from taxpayers. So we've got that bill that's just been passed out of committee, and it's heading to the Rules Committee. And my understanding is that it's already in a Rules Committee, and it's going to be heard. So I think we're going to be getting a vote on the floor on the One Big Beautiful Property Tax Bill anytime. I would say in the next week or even maybe two. So we'll be down there primarily pushing zero income tax today. But I can tell you, we always talk about property taxes.
And what would that bill do with property taxes? I mean, so it's moving, and sounds like that's a good thing, but what would it actually do if it's passed basically as is right now?
Well, the biggest thing that it will do, and this will probably be the biggest contention and fight about, is that it would require taxing authorities to put elections for increasing any tax on the November general election. And as you know, what's coming up here in April, we've got a blitzkrieg of all these taxing authorities trying to put sales taxes on for their firemen. I just heard Ellisville's got a tax coming up, a property tax proposal coming up. St. Louis County is looking at doing a new property tax for seniors, which we totally oppose. So they're all trying to. The senior property tax freeze has done many wonderful things in 87 counties. But the biggest thing it did, which kind of creates its own challenge, is all of these taxing authorities now are just crazy worried about losing any future revenue. They call it tax losses. It's not. What it's based on is future revenue is going to be less than you think it should be. And so that's what all this tax relief is about, is we're just trying to slow the curve so these people don't get tax increases that are putting our families in harm's way, because they don't have the money in their budget to keep paying ever-increasing taxes.
All right,
So
Dennis.
that's the biggest thing it'll do.
Dennis Ganahl from Mo Tax Relief Now. The rally is happening today. Of course, there's probably a lot of people who are listening to us right now are on the way to join you out there. And then you're going to be at another one on Thursday. Speaking of property taxes, we're going to talk to Bill Eigel at 7:05 about the push to put the restraints on property taxes in St. Charles County. So we're going to have that conversation with Bill right around 7:05 as well. Dennis, really appreciate you giving us the update here. Good luck with the rally today.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Mike. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Dennis. You know, we were kind of talking about this earlier, but is the city becoming safer or is it becoming more dangerous? At 6:50, we're going to tell you how to be part of that discussion today.
I'm just a step away, I'm just a breath away, losing my faith today. I am just a man.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do.
On News Talk STL.
This app is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at BluffCityOutdoors.com.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
They served our country with honor. Now it's our turn to serve them. Join the freedom13.org for an unforgettable gala honoring America's heroes, February 27th at the Foundry Arts Center in St. Charles. A special evening supporting Freedom 13's bold mission. 50 camps in 50 states on more than 50,000 acres, building 650 homes for veterans, police, and their families. Tickets and sponsorship opportunities are available now. Visit thefreedom13.org. That's thefreedom13.org.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
I'm begging you to put your loving hand out, baby. I'm begging you to put your loving hand out, darling. Riding high when I was king.
Hey, Chris Arps from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
To mask or not to mask? That is the question.
Okay, Shakespeare.
And it could depend. It could end up being a factor in whether the government shuts down, or at least a little part of it. We'll see here. Is the city, as Susie was just saying, is the city getting safer or more dangerous? And you can be a part of that discussion today. We're going to tell you how. The Illini move down. The Billikens move up in the latest college basketball polls. 6:50 right now. Let's go ahead and do one more news dump here.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks. The Morning News Dump.
Okay, Republicans, Democrats, to nobody's surprise, divided over whether federal law enforcement agents should be wearing masks when enforcing federal law. And that conflict matters as Congress is working to avert another partial government shutdown. At least the Republicans are trying to avert a partial government shutdown. I'm not so sure the Democrats are.
Friday's midnight deadline, lawmakers are locked in a debate over funding Homeland Security, and a central question is whether to ban face masks by immigration enforcement officers. The House Democratic leader says unmasking the federal agents is a hard red line in the negotiations. But most Republicans say the current political climate leaves the immigration officers exposed to harassment if their faces and identities are made public. Greg Clugston, Washington.
I'm going to look in my crystal ball here and say there's some sort of shutdown, and the Democrats say, look what the Republicans did because they wouldn't acquiesce to our demand to unmask all the federal law enforcement. I think that's how the framing is going to end up going.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, just as Susie was saying, the question, is the city getting better or getting worse when it comes to crime and public safety? Yep. The Show Me Institute is hosting a public forum on that tonight. It's an event called Examining Crime and Public Safety Trends in St. Louis. A little bit brainy, a little bit wonky, but obviously it's a very crucial question. And so this is going to happen at the MAC West. So we're talking about the one in Des Peres, just off 270. That is doors open at 4:30. The event runs, I think, basically from 5 to 6. Patrick Tuohey from the Show Me Institute is basically one of the presenters. He's going to be running it. He's going to be with us in just about an hour and 10 minutes to talk about it. Reservations are required, but they are free. They do not take walk-ins. So if you want to go, email, here's the email address, events@showmeinstitute.org to save your spot. The earlier you email, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a very informative hour.
I think it will be, yeah. And they've got some other, basically experts from around the area who are going to be part of this discussion as well there. All right, this is interesting. Bills that would allow Waymo driverless taxis to operate in Missouri have cleared their first legislative hurdle in the State House. Here's the story on this.
Says first responders in other cities.
Maybe I should start at the very beginning of that. I hate it when my computer does that. Here we go.
Supporters say the technology could expand independence and economic participation for people who can't drive. Lori Becker, CEO of the St. Louis-based Starkloff Disability Institute, has personal reasons for being excited.
Being legally blind and having epilepsy, I've never had the opportunity to get a driver's license to be able to get where I need to go independently.
St. Louis firefighter Tom Mullins says first responders in other cities have already seen problems with driverless vehicles.
Some of these robo-taxis have entered active fire scenes, active EMS scenes, active police scenes as well.
The bills would require companies to submit a law enforcement response plan and report crashes involving autonomous vehicles. For Missouri News Service, I'm Crystal Blair.
These things are on the way, one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few things like this or, new developments that don't have drawbacks to. You just got to weigh the pros and the cons. So, I mean, I can see the value of them. I can also see the concerns about them.
Yeah, sense. Like I said, it's on the way. It's going to be a matter of what does the lane look like that we build for them to be on and then to keep them on.
What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is, it's like AI.
You're not talking about separate lanes.
Though. No. I mean like figuratively.
Okay, I thought so, but then I was like, wait, did I miss something?
AI, it's like AI is here. AI is changing the world. What's the lane we're going to allow it to be in? Figuratively speaking.
What
and
guardrails are we going to
what guardrails are we going to have? And so that's where lawmakers, and it's tough to do, to give the Republicans and Democrats a little bit of leeway here, because it's tough to say, how do we regulate but not overly restrict, because we want a marketplace and we want technology and we want innovation. But at the same time, there are problems with these vehicles because it is such new technology.
Yeah. No easy answers.
Yep. All right. 2 area communities debate data centers on Monday. In St. Charles, the city's Planning and Zoning Commission delayed a decision on banning the data centers. Okay, here's what was at stake. There was a proposed ban on data centers in St. Charles. The Planning and Zoning Committee said, we're going to table that, we're going to talk about it, learn more, and then we'll come back and revisit it in 2 months. So they're not banned, but there's still a proposal to just ban them outright. So that passed the plan. The tabling of that passed 6-2, a little complicated, but basically they said, no, we're not going to ban it right now. We'll think about it again in 2 months. In Festus, a petition drive is demanding the question of whether to allow one to be built on annexed land be put on the ballot. Now, the proposed center, there actually isn't any company looking to build one. The city annexed land and said that would be a good place for a data center.
Okay.
And that was just off Highway CC and Route 67. Mayor Sam Richards says the city is actually not required to put the question on the ballot despite the petition that was presented. There's not a law that says they have to do that. So the mayor and council are unlikely to actually put that on the ballot. But people are really involved. They had a packed house at the city council meeting last night.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to delve into it more, but I feel like data centers have become like the new boogeyman.
Yeah, they really have.
And I mean, maybe for good reason. Maybe, I think there are rightly some concerns being raised.
Well, let's ask AI and ChatGPT or Grok or whoever what the pros and cons are. Oh, wait a minute. You need a data center to get that information.
It's true. It's true.
To find that. Okay, this is interesting. Some Olympic athletes say this year's medals are poor quality.
I just was seeing that above your head on the TV there.
Yeah, and they are breaking within hours. Speaking from the Winter Olympics in Italy, women's downhill gold medalist Breezy Johnson. Is that really her name?
I mean, I don't know if that's her given name, but she's known as Breezy Johnson.
Yeah. She shares how hers broke shortly after celebrating.
Don't jump in them. I was jumping in excitement and it broke. I'm sure somebody will fix it. It's not like crazy broken, but it's a little broken.
Okay, so the Olympic organizers say they are investigating the cause of the faulty medals with maximum attention.
Yeah. You can't have your medals breaking. No. That's not good. That's really not a good look.
Man, that's rough.
Ooh.
All right, the Billikens move up one spot in both of the main basketball polls this week. In the AP poll, SLU is now ranked 18th in the nation. In the coaches poll, Billikens are 19th. SLU 23-1 and on one heck of a winning streak right now. Illinois drops in both polls after their loss to Michigan this weekend. That was an overtime loss. I watched that game.
That's painful.
That was an exciting game to watch.
Yeah.
It really was. The AP has the Illini at number 8, and the coaches rank them 7th. Illinois plays Wisconsin on the road tonight. The Billikens play Loyola in Chicago on Friday. So basically, the Illini just need to be in the top 8 by the end of the season so they get one of the primo seedings in the rankings. The Billikens, if they can keep this kind of season going, they could end up being in like a 3-4, maybe not a 3, but a 4, 5, 6 seed in March Madness, which would be a really good draw.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, when pests invade your home, you need someone you can trust. It's Jamie Allman here, and at Buckingham Pest Control, they're not just your exterminators. They're your neighbors and friends. A locally owned family business and St. Louis Magazine A-List award winner, providing affordable, quality pest control. Plus, they offer energy-efficient TAP attic insulation, the only insulation that controls pests. BuckinghamPestControl.com. That's BuckinghamPestControl.com.
People ask all the time, who the heck is Low Cost Airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rates you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. The FBI says it's not aware of any ongoing communication between the Guthrie family and the suspected kidnappers of Nancy Guthrie. Investigators say they have not identified any suspects or persons of interest.
Here in front of Nancy Guthrie's house, Pima County Sheriff's deputies are now a constant presence, as are the media, as the search for the missing 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie stretches into another week. Neighbors pass by the house. Some just watch as investigators continue to comb over the property. The FBI and local authorities have been reviewing ransom notes sent to some local media. Guthrie's family took to social media over the weekend saying they would pay to have their mother back, but also want proof of life. Meanwhile, a small vigil has been set up outside of her home, and it keeps growing. In the Catalina Foothills neighborhood, outside of Tucson, Arizona, I'm Ty O'Neill.
Another suspected drug-running boat has been blown out of the water by the U.S. military in the Eastern Pacific. 2 alleged narco-terrorists were killed. From the classroom to the picket line, almost 6,000 San Francisco public school teachers are on strike. The first such walkout in more than 45 years.
We are still being promised one thing and offered another.
United Educators of San Francisco President Cassandra Curiel.
And our demands for fully funded family health care 100% remain the same, not 75%.
They are demanding higher wages, better health benefits, and more resources for special needs students. San Francisco has closed all 120 of its schools, offering independent study to some of the district's 50,000 students. Sound courtesy KGO. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The House Homeland Security Committee will hear from Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons. A hearing is scheduled for later this morning. On Wall Street, the Dow futures are down 59 points, while the NASDAQ futures are 9 points higher. S&P futures up a fraction. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Attention investors, this affects you. Silver prices are exploding, with silver exceeding $100 a troy ounce for the first time. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000 to get our free gold and silver investment guide. Plus, you'll also receive a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's book, Our Dollar, Your Problem, when you call now. Here's why it matters. Silver is a high liquidity, tangible, and affordable precious metal investment that serves as an industrial commodity and a store of value. It often outperforms gold during economic upturns. If you have an IRA or 401k, you can act now. Roll over a portion into a tax-advantaged gold and silver IRA backed by physical metals you actually own. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000 and find out how you can get a tax and penalty-free rollover for a portion of your retirement funds for 2026. Results vary. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. Going to be tracking a warm afternoon, mostly sunny, highs back towards the lower 60s, then into Wednesday, mostly sunny, 49 degrees. As we head off into Thursday afternoon, could see some isolated chances for some showers, highs into the mid-40s. By Friday, mostly cloudy, 51. Into Saturday, could be seeing some widespread chances of showers and temperatures into the upper 40s. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scott.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Mike Ferguson.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Susie Moore.
They look very aggressive. I think they want to beat me up.
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the fight over tax reform and, dare I say, tax elimination in some areas, wouldn't that be nice? That's not just happening at the statewide level. Nope. Not in Missouri, at least. It's happening in the counties, and it's happening in the cities as well, but in the counties in particular, in St. Charles, this is one of the top-tier debates in this race for county executive right now. Matter of fact, on Thursday, there's going to be a rally called the St. Charles County Tax Relief Rally. And some of the leaders and the candidates for leadership are going to be there, and you can meet them. It's going to happen Thursday, once again, the 12th, 6 to 8 p.m. On Main Street. And one of those speakers is going to be former State Senator Bill Eigel, who joins us right now. And so, Bill, we just talked to Dennis Ganahl a few minutes ago about what's happening at the state level. This is focused on particularly property taxes in St. Charles County, of course, with you running for county executive. What is it that you want to see the county council pass and put into place? The banner on the flyer says freeze property taxes. What would that look like?
Well, there's actually a couple things. And Mike, by the way, so good morning, by the way.
Hello.
But more than but more than that, there's actually the potential that we're going to see a couple things on the ballot in St. Charles County that is really going to be a leader amongst the counties in the state. There's going to be two things in particular that we're going to be talking about on Thursday. The first, and Dennis is going to talk about this at length as well. The first is a measure that we're going to try to get put on the ballot that's going to make permanent the senior property tax freeze that benefits all our senior citizens and protects them from all of these dramatic increases in their property taxes. There is an option within the law that was passed associated with that tax credit that would allow the counties to make the decision to make that tax credit permanent. We're going to be getting out information about that, and we're going to be collecting signatures to get that on the ballot. And then, of course, the other thing that's going to be on the ballot is the thing that I have been working on for a decade of my life, and that is the move to move us away from personal property taxes and stop the government process of charging you for the crime of owning a car. That also could show up on the ballot if we get enough signatures. And if it does, and we are successful, St. Charles County might be the first county in the state of Missouri to not charge you rent for owning a vehicle.
Bill, I know we've talked about this before, but I think sometimes it gets a little confusing because we're talking about this from a state level perspective and then also from a county level perspective. What's the difference? What's distinguishing what they're talking about doing in the state house versus what you all are talking about doing for St. Charles County?
Sure. So there's different ways you can get rid of personal property tax. If you try to get rid of it from the state is what determines the assessment rate on personal property. So right now, that assessment rate is 33 1/3% of market value is what's ultimately the taxable amount on your vehicle when you go to pay your personal property tax. So if the state wants to get rid of personal property tax, really all they got to do is change the assessment rate that's set statewide down to zero. That will effectively get rid of personal property tax. On the other hand, if we want to go about getting rid of personal property tax from the county level, which is what I am proposing, what I'm proposing to do is reduce the county government, which has gotten to a size that we've never seen before. We spend over $600 million a year at the county level, and keep in mind that's separate from the schools, that's separate from the fire departments, that's separate from the library boards. I want to take that $600 million and go in there and get some dramatic savings out of that $600 million and move the savings over to the county collector, who will then pay off the personal property tax bills on behalf of the citizens using those savings from county government. And St. Charles has an enormous county government. Like I said, it's bigger than it's ever been before. And while county government has been getting bigger and bigger and more wasteful, we have seen the tax burden dramatically increase to the size that we've never paid more for owning a house or owning a car. So we want to turn that around. And I really think that the issue of property taxes in particular is going to be the number one issue of this election cycle for 2026.
So, Bill, if we're looking at restraining the government growth or actually cutting the size of the county government, what are the areas that you should go? Where's the fat that needs to be trimmed in order to offset all those costs?
Well, probably the biggest one is just a couple years ago, St. Charles County passed a cent-and-a-half use tax that is generating right now about $40 to $50 million. It's growing every year. And it's actually, by the time the new county executive takes office a year from now, will be about 55 to $60 million. That's almost half of what we collect in personal property tax. Now, that money has been going into the Parks and Recs Department, but we have so much money going into the Parks and Recs Department that even though we've tripled the budget of our Parks and Recs Department, we've tripled that budget in the past 3 years. The attendance at the county parks over the past 3 years has actually gone down. And we have actually found ourselves spending money that we don't need to be spending in order to, A, continue to deliver the world-class park system, but B, there's a ceiling of how much money we can throw at that park system. And so we can take that surplus that is generated there and move that over to personal property tax. There's some other things, just in general, for the county has grown. There's over 1,400 employees there. The county has never been bigger. And I'm a big fan of the Department of Government Efficiency that was started in Washington, D.C. If we could find just 10%, think about it, just 10% savings at the government, at county government, we could completely eliminate personal property tax. So another thing that I'm proposing doing as the county executive is we're going to set up that county DOGE program that's going to find those 10% savings. We'll combine that with that cent-and-a-half use tax that the people have already passed and are already paying right now, and we're going to move that over to the county collector. And my plan is to get rid of personal property tax.
It seems like 10%, Bill, if you're looking at 10% reduction in workforce, you could almost do that through attrition and retirements, as opposed to you might not even have to fire anybody for just a 10% cut.
Yeah, I think that's right. I wouldn't expect to have to give anybody a pink slip, quite frankly. Turnover, generic turnover for all positions is about 2 to 3%. So I'm sure some of those savings will come in just identifying which positions don't need to continue to be filled after they've already become empty. But more than that, every government entity has waste. I think finding 10% savings in any government organization is actually a pretty conservative goal, to be honest. I actually personally expect that we're going to be able to find more waste than that. So this is a really good opportunity for folks to be engaged with government to do some of the things that they would like to see government do. And in this case, they actually want government to do less of the waste, less of the fraud that we see across government. And so this is a message I think a lot of folks are going to buy into.
Bill, how do we get from point A to point B on this? I mean, that sounds like a very engaging proposal, something that people should get behind. But just mechanically, how do we get from advocating for it to getting it actually enacted or passed?
Sure. So think of it in a two-step process. The first thing is this is what we're going to put on the ballot relative to this issue. I'd like to put on the ballot a question that would change the county charter that would specifically allow the county executive to move surpluses from the county budget over to the county collector so that the county collector can pay down the personal property tax bills of its citizens. So we're going to be talking about that on Thursday night. We've already started collecting signatures. We've already got thousands of signatures to get that question onto the ballot. Once that is passed and put into the chart, by the way, it's overwhelmingly popular. I think once we get that on the ballot, especially since we're only talking about using surpluses to bring down the tax burden, I would expect it to overwhelmingly pass at the ballot. Once that is done, step two is we have to elect a county executive that's actually going to be serious about finding these savings and turning those savings into actual dollars that we send over to the county collector and get the county collector to pay down those tax bills. Our current county executive, Steve Ellman, has been busy for the past 20 years growing the size of government, growing the county functions, growing all that waste. We've never had more county government than what we have under Steve Ellman. So I think that it's really going to have to be a decision by the people of this county that, it's not that things are terrible in the county, but there's a real stagnation, I think, that's creeping in on St. Charles County because we've allowed the property and personal property tax burdens to get so high. We've brought in all these apartment complexes, and it's just kind of time for a change that we're going to say, hey, we want a more aggressive steward of our tax dollars, and we're going to make sure that we're bringing down the tax burden as a priority for the next administration.
Okay, I want to do a couple bullet points on that rally coming up on Thursday for those who are interested in it. But also, lots been made of public safety in St. Charles County. Obviously, I would think one of the safer areas of the entire metro area, but you do have crime moving around and growing throughout the metro area. Obviously, how would all of this affect law enforcement, emergency services, any sort of first responder, but law enforcement in particular, which has been under the microscope by a lot of politicians and activists. So what's a Bill Eigel administration going to be doing regarding public safety in St. Charles County?
What we're going to maintain the commitment for the people that keep us safe. We're going to maintain the dollars to doing that. And by the way, when I talk about waste and fraud in government, I'm not talking about law enforcement. I'm not talking about our first responders. Those folks have a very important role, and we're going to make sure they have all the tools that they need to do that. For as long as I've been in politics, I've been one of the staunchest defenders and supporters of our first responders. Of course, I passed the Police Officer Bill of Rights to protect them from frivolous lawsuits. We have always gone out of our way to prioritize law enforcement. We're going to continue to do that. But in spite of, we are going to have the capacity, because right now we're sending a record amount of money, the people of St. Charles are, to their county government. We're going to be able to provide world-class first responder services, and at the same time cut the tax burden from the wasteful functions of our county government and bring that tax relief to St. Charles County.
Okay, so you're not the only one speaking at this tax relief rally on Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m., 204 North Main Street in St. Charles. Is that the Soda Museum?
No, that's the Honky Tonk Bar.
The Honky Tonk Bar. All right.
Bar.
Yep, there it is. Okay,
There
so
you go.
204 North Main Street, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. You, Tricia Burns, State Representative Tricia Burns, Dennis Ganahl, whom we spoke to a little bit ago, State Representative Ben Keithley, all going to be there. So people want to learn more about this event. They want to go. What's the way to be in touch and get a spot?
So the event is it's right now. It's on Facebook. It's open to everybody. We're encouraging everyone to bring their friends, bring their family. You know that I wouldn't miss a conversation about taxes and cutting taxes. And by the way, Mike, you made a very good point. This isn't just about tax reform. You know, there's a little bit of shake and bake going on in Jefferson City right now, where they're talking about getting rid of the income tax there, but they're not talking about cutting the tax burden. They're just talking about shifting it around to different forms of taxation. We're going to be talking about actually eliminating, bringing down the tax burden, capping the tax burden, actually stopping more of your dollars from going to government in the first place. I think that's a very important point, but we'd love to see everybody 6 to 8 on Thursday down at the Honky Tonk Bar in Main Street. You'll have a chance to ask questions about our plans to cut the tax burden, and we're going to have the petitions on hand. So if you like what you hear, you can add your name to the list, and we're going to do everything we can to get this put onto the ballot.
All right, and that's all on your Facebook and your website, right?
You got it.
All right, Bill, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Thanks, Bill. So getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go away, that sounds like a pretty good gig if you can get it, but it's not so good if you're the one paying the bill. And that's what's happening to taxpayers in one St. Louis County community. We're going to fill you in on the rest of the details at 7:20.
Destination, making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away.
When was the last time you really treated yourself? And by treat yourself, I mean spruced up your environment, did something about your house that just cheered you up, made you feel better about it. One of the best ways to do that would be to improve and replace your flooring. And if you're thinking about doing that, you should go to Michael's Flooring Outlet. They are a locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years. I've used Michael's in the past. I had a great experience with them, and that was from start to finish. So I suspect you will too if you go to Michael's. If it's variety you're looking for, they've got it. They've got hardwood, carpet, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, plenty of options for you to choose from. Plus, with Michael's, you know your installation is going to be done right the first time because it's being done by the experts at Michael's. No subcontractors. Best combination ever is that with Michael's, you get to save money and you get the quality. You get great quality. So if you are in the market for new flooring, go to Michael's. You can shop in store at one of their 3 locations on Olive and Creve Coeur, on Town Square in Darting Prairie, or on Main Street in St. Peters. Or you can shop from the comfort of your own home. Just go online to igotfloored.com.
Colombo and Company.
Jasmine Crockett issued a warning to President Trump, and the administration continues to tout tariffs as we wait for the Supreme Court. We'll talk about all of it Tuesday with Crane Durham and Susie Moore.
Live Live and local, weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Tim Jones here from my great friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. How do I know? Simply put, they've helped me on many occasions. Here's another solution to your everyday aches and pains. The Studio Health and Wellness Center. Services include Pilates and yoga, both with certified instructors. I can also highly recommend the massage therapy, which is not an indulgence. It's a proven method of healing and restoration. Trust my friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com.
News, analysis,
I'm glad you're talking about this.
Opinion.
I'm glad you're fired up about it, too, because I know I am.
News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
Okay, Susie just alluded to it. This is the stuff that drives me nuts. Public officials being rewarded for abusing their power.
Doesn't seem right.
No. It only doesn't seem right. The only reason it doesn't seem right is because it's not right.
Oh, it's funny how that lines up.
It's funny how that. Okay, we'll tell you what's going on. Baldwin taxpayers in particular, you want to know about this?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. All right, 7:21 right now. You know they say knowledge is power.
It's true.
Yes. So, Susie, how can redstate.com make us more powerful today?
This is the Red State Rundown.
Well, first, I'm going to let you in on a little VIP piece that our friend Terry Christoph wrote. I think some people were going to find this interesting. It's titled, "The Left is Furious After Being Exposed for Gaslighting America with Healthy at Every Size Agenda." This is kind of getting into the fact that everyone's embracing these GLP-1 medications, and basically there's a lot of people who used to embrace the body positivity message who are suddenly getting slender, skinny. Right. And now they're wanting everyone to just forget that they were saying, "Oh no, you're beautiful at every size, and it's all great, and it's all healthy." They're gaslighting us, and it's being called out, and they don't like it.
As it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is we talk about the political ideology. People die because of this.
Mm-hmm.
They die 5, 10, 15, 20 years earlier than they should because of this nonsense.
Yep. So it's being called out, and Terry has a really great article on that. From Jennifer Van Laar, a managing editor, another deep dive investigative piece. It's titled, "Yes, a Pakistani citizen living in Pakistan voted in California's 2020 election." Here's the rest of the story. She does a deep dive here. She goes into explaining how this could possibly be. It's kind of scary stuff. You want to hear more about it? You want to learn more about it? Go check out Jen's article.
Wow.
Last but not least, coming from yours truly, we had another win for the Trump administration at the appellate court level yesterday when the Ninth Circuit basically told a district court, no, the Secretary of Homeland Security can terminate temporary protected status for this. And this involved Nicaragua, Honduras, and Nepal. But this was a big win for them, and it actually kind of gets to the heart of some of the jurisdictional questions we're seeing fought out in the courts. So
this has to do with those. Would this have to do with those who are claiming refugee status in particular, or just overall this is part of the deportation process?
Okay, so temporary protected status is kind of what we think of as refugee status, but it's basically when the Department of Homeland Security says, okay, you know what? For instance, Nepal suffered a severe earthquake in 2015. So they gave temporary protected status to people from Nepal, basically saying, because everything's so undone in your country, you can be here temporarily. But it's at the secretary's prerogative to terminate that. That's what she's been doing with a whole bunch of these different countries. The ones for Nicaragua and Honduras, that temporary protective status has been in place since 1999.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So basically, this administration is calling baloney on temporary and saying, okay, the conditions that led to this original designation are no longer there. We're therefore removing this. So what ends up happening is people who are here under that have to go back to their country.
So is this basically the policy and the legal equivalent of you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here?
Yeah.
At closing time.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you can live in Honduras. I've got a cousin who lives in Honduras. You can get there. All right. 7:24 right now. All right. This is what happened. This is in Baldwin, and we were covering this a few years ago when this story first happened, because it was one of those that made us go, wait, what? What just happened here? Because the police chief kind of got run out run out on a rail in Baldwin. We didn't, at the time, we didn't know what happened. Just we knew all of a sudden that the chief was, I think he was, if I'm remembering correctly, he was basically put on administrative leave and then he was run out. Chief Douglas Schaefer. And so he was terminated in late 2023. And I remember us covering and talking about this. I think we were still at the old studio downtown when this came out. And so what we found out is that at one point he'd been caught driving a city vehicle while drunk, while intoxicated. The police chief.
Can't do that.
Bad idea for anybody.
That's a no.
Big no for the police chief. But here's when we talk about him abusing his position. There's this like background check system you basically that's internal to government and law enforcement. We're not talking CaseNet, the stuff that any of us can go to. But he ran like 1,000 people through this. Like, I wonder what that guy's up to. Click and run.
So he's like playing Samantha Power on the municipal level.
Yes, essentially. So, for instance, in the article I'm reading, which is Channel 2's, let me just read this. It says, they were people like Matthew Conlon and Michael Scott who spoke with Fox 2 News in 2024. Conlon told us at the time, it seems like Big Brother to me. It never occurred to me that I would be a victim, Scott added. And so what had happened was one of them, the city council, basically there was something at a city council meeting regarding some police tactic and drones and stuff like that. And they questioned it at the city council meeting, which is precisely what you're supposed to do. Now, I don't know whether I would agree or disagree with what they were questioning, but that's not the point. This is the way we do it. And the police chief, paraphrasing, basically went, I wonder what that guy's up to. Let me run a check, and just put him in the system and ran him. Ran him like 1,000 people through this system while he was police chief.
So this is a system that he has special access to,
Right.
as opposed to just your standard like social media stalking of somebody if you're curious
Right.
about what they're all
This
about.
is that internal system, no warrants, no nothing like that. So basically a police officer comes across somebody who's suspicious or pulls somebody over, something's not right, they can call in, hey, run them through this to see if there's anything. Well, he was just doing it because either out of curiosity or looking, for whatever reason.
Right.
So 1,000 people. So that's bad enough. Okay, but here's the thing, is he was terminated in late December 2023.
Okay.
So he sued for wrongful termination.
Okay.
Which I guess you're free to do. That's what core system's for.
Mhm.
The city government, the city council, they agreed to a settlement for $200,000 after he had been caught abusing his position and being intoxicated while driving a city vehicle as the police chief.
Did he investigate them?
Yeah, I don't know. So $200,000 payout after he was fired. And then what they did was they also agreed to pay $10,000 into the retirement system, the pension system that police are eligible for. And the council voted unanimously for this deal in August of 2025. So almost 2 years later, they're retroactively paying out $200,000 to settle this. Oh, yeah. And they also retroactively changed his termination date in order to allow him full maximum benefits out of the system. And now he's retired, but the only face-saving thing that the city's getting is that he gave up his license certification to be a police officer, but he's retired, so it doesn't matter. So 2 years later, they're settling a lawsuit by paying out hundreds of thousands of dollars and changing the date so that he can maximize his public pension.
Really makes you wonder what his leverage was.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
we just had this happen in St. Charles County too, not
Yeah.
too long, a month ago or something like that.
No, having, worked in the litigation industry for almost 30 years, obviously 95% of the cases, no, I shouldn't say obviously, 95+% of the cases that we handled settled.
Right.
So there's always some bargaining going on. There's back and forth. But if you're coming to the table, you've got to have some sort of leverage. So somebody who's been dismissed for breaking the law and invading people's privacy, I'm really curious what his leverage was.
I remember when I was on the board of aldermen in Grandview, and I got a cold, hard lesson in this because somebody was going to sue the city. And I think I've told the story before. They were waiting to go into municipal court. By all accounts, started a fight with our police officer, like as in accosted our police officer. Well, when our cop took him down, he basically went through some bushes, got scraped and cut up. He sued us. We ended up settling for like $10,000 or $15,000.
Right, because it's the cost of it's a cost benefit analysis.
Exactly.
Basically, it's going to cost more to defend the suit than just to settle it. But that makes sense in that context. $10,000-$15,000. Okay,
I was so mad about that.
Yeah, on principle
so
alone, and I totally get that. But from just a dollar standpoint, that makes sense. $200,000 is considerably more than that.
Yes.
And to me, it doesn't seem like something that a council or a government body would agree to unless there was a downside, a risk, something they were concerned about happening if the case were taken to trial. Right. I mean,
could legal counsel, could those cost over the course of a long, drawn-out trial? Could it meet that?
They could probably get close to that, I guess, particularly because I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that well, I don't know. Let me think about this for a second, because who would be handling the case for the city of Baldwin? It would be their city councilor, I guess.
Well, they would, for something like that. They would probably bring an outside counsel. I would.
It'd be defense counsel, usually through their insurance. Yeah, I mean, that would be a real stretch for that to get into that ballpark. Mm-hmm. So it's just something seems off about this. And I have a personal stake. I grew up in Baldwin. My mom lives in Baldwin. I lived in Baldwin. I'm familiar with at least the area, not necessarily this particular players, but something about this seems
well. The
weird.
Next time your mom buys something or pays her property tax bill, part of it's going to this.
Yeah, that's not right.
No, absolutely not. It's hard not to get stressed out about this.
It's frustrating because nobody's answering any questions.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Have they given any?
No, I mean, Channel 2 reached out and like they're asking for comments and quotes, and everybody's tight-lipped. They're going to hide behind, personnel matter. That's what they're going to hide behind, which, to some degree, I get it's a personnel matter, but...
Whistleblowers, if you're out there.
314-912-1019, mike@newstalkstl.com, because this ain't right. This is just not right, and the taxpayers in Baldwin looks like are just getting screwed.
Yeah. Well, somebody knows.
They might be tight-lipped in this situation, but there is actually a debate going on right now regarding raising the minimum wage, and now... some people are calling to actually lower the minimum wage. Could that be a thing? Does that make any sense? We'll be explaining that at 7:35 coming up.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scotch with your first alert forecast. Going to be tracking a warm afternoon, mostly sunny. Highs back towards the lower 60s. Then into Wednesday, mostly sunny, 49 degrees. As we head off into Thursday afternoon, could see some isolated chances for some showers. Highs into the mid-40s by Friday, mostly cloudy, 51. Into Saturday, could be seeing some widespread chances of showers and temperatures into the upper 40s. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scotch.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Alamo Military Collectibles, Gemini Wealth Group, and Heroes Care.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community. Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit Vincent'sJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on News Talk STL.
So far, Team USA is looking great in the Winter Olympics, but those who hate our country are doing everything they can to use the Olympics as a leftist tool. Last week, we saw a 27-year-old snowboarder say, "It's a little impossible for me to wear Team USA gear. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything going on in America." Now, first, I'll point out and agree, no one said you had to surrender your freedom of speech to get on the Team USA. But can you consider that if you were lucky enough, blessed enough to make the team, you should be thankful, not use it as a platform to push radical ideology? The left is so bent on making our nation look bad. They love this guy. Well, look, he's done a quadruple backflip. Now he says, "I cannot wait to represent Team USA." What happened? President Trump was among those calling him a loser, questioning should he even remain on the team. Maybe he suddenly also realized, if I can win a gold medal, I'll get almost $40,000 tax-free. In my opinion, he can say what he wants. But if he's going to trash our nation, he does not deserve to be on Team USA.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
I listen to News Talk STL on the app driving to work.
Download the News Talk STL app.
You got to get the News Talk STL app.
Love the app. Can listen anywhere in St. Louis.
And listen anytime.
News Talk STL right on my phone.
Anywhere.
Hey, this is Vince Colonnese. I'll talk to you tonight at 8, but now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL.
All right, a Missouri state lawmaker wants to create a lower minimum wage, but just for one group of people in the state. And, of course, that's Cubs fans. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. We don't.
We could all get behind that.
Yeah, I'm joking. We don't pay Cubs fans anything. But talking about a lower, we're talking about a lower minimum wage for minors. We'll get into the details on that. Got some thoughts? Let me know what you think. Because economically, policy-wise, there are pros and cons to it. I know there's going to be somebody who goes, there's no upside to that. Actually, there is. Mm-hmm. There is. And there's also is it a good idea versus the political optics and reality on that as well. 7:38 right now. By the way, we've been mentioning this just kind of, at the end of different segments and things like that. The Freedom 13, our friends at the Freedom 13, they've got a big fundraising gala night coming up. Now, they've got a number of events that are coming up, but this is one of their big ones. And so they are teaming up. We are teaming up with them, I should say, to honor our heroes. If you go to newstalkstl.com and look for the Freedom 13 slider there and just click on that, there's a link right there. You can get your tickets to this event that's going to happen February 27th. It's going to happen at the Foundry Arts Center in St. Charles on the 27th.
Yeah, I've pinned the link in our Facebook chat as well.
Good.
It's also in the Rumble chat for our Rumblers, but newstalkstl.com/freedom, and then the number 13, Gala, Gala, and that will take you right there.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, because they do some great work. Matter of fact, Mark Schmitz, who's the father of Jared Schmitz, he's going to be on the program with us tomorrow because we're going to get an update on this. Now, the reason that I'm kind of saying, hey, there's a little bit of a sense of urgency on here is because the ticket sales are going to close out this week. So if you say, oh, I'd love to be involved in that, well, you got to do it now, basically. So check that out. Click on that link. At least take a look at it. And it's you're not going to go wrong supporting the Freedom 13.
No.
Let's just put it that way. All right. So a state lawmaker is recommending creating basically a two-tier minimum wage system in Missouri.
Hmm.
So this is, this is interesting here, and I got to grab the right sheet that I've got here. I guess it's Representative Joe Nicola, Senator Joe Nicola, has a bill that would separate out minimum wage requirements for those who are of age, 18 and above, and under 18. Okay? So the new minimum wage in Missouri right now is $15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You remember what the minimum wage was when you first started working?
Mm-hmm. $3.05.
Yeah, it was I think it was $3.15 when I started.
It might have been $2.85, and then like immediately changed to $3.05, like right in that time frame.
Yeah, it was, and with me just being a few years behind you, it was three. I think it was $3.15. I think it was an hour when I first started on my first payroll job, because I did like farm work, and they just pay you a wad of cash at the end of the day.
Yeah, and
I did a lot of that.
There were some exceptions even to that, because I had friends that worked at like a movie theater, and it was like $2.10 an hour. But then there was like some way that they were getting additional on top of that that got them up to basically where the rest of the
I would work at my first like payroll job was at a Wendy's in Quincy, Illinois. So I drove in from Camp Point, Illinois, which was 25 miles, something like that. But then again, remember, gas was about $1.
It's true.
A gallon, and I remember it being less than $1 a gallon when a gas war would happen.
Yeah. Mine was at Fashion Gal, and it was only a mile away from my house, so I didn't have to worry about gas too
there
much.
You go, yeah.
Fashion Gal.
No, I got in my 1972 Ford Maverick, and I would drive into Quincy and work at Wendy's, and then eventually I went and got a little studio apartment in Quincy for $90 an hour once I graduated.
$90 an hour?
$90 an hour. $90 a month, sorry. And I would, I graduated high school early and actually moved out when I was like right before I turned 18. So I was 17. And I had the studio apartment, this tiny little crappy studio apartment. That was my first apartment until I went off to Mizzou. And so I worked at Wendy's. Then I got a job at the mall selling shoes at a sporting goods store.
I did
there.
Ups and Downs at the mall. Remember Ups and Downs?
I remember Ups and Downs,
Yeah.
Yep. So here's what's being proposed here. Instead of the $15 an hour minimum wage that's in place across the state, he's suggesting a minimum wage rate for minors at $12.30 an hour.
Yeah. Okay. And so that would basically just be 16 and 17-year-olds, because you're
basically
not supposed to. I mean, you're not allowed technically to work legally until you're 16.
Is that what it is now?
It is now.
Okay.
It didn't used to be that way, but
yeah.
it is now, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And then if you age out at 18.
Yeah, as soon as you turn 18, they have to pay They have to pay you the full minimum wage on that. So okay, there's two different layers to this. The question as far as whether or not it's good policy. Minimum wage hurts the people it's intended to help the most.
Yep.
I mean, that's not even. If you are economically literate, you understand that. Now, it's not a popular position politically, but economically, it just does. It does help people who are in the protected group of workers.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not in that protected group, you're left out, and it actually hurts a lot of people as well.
And hurts small businesses.
Very much so hurts small businesses. Now there's the political side of it. The Missouri Republicans are trying to do some big changes to taxes. Cut taxes, cut $600 million in spending. And they just went and undid a statewide referendum that passed in 2024, or parts of it that passed, as far as the overtime, mandatory paid overtime and all that sort of stuff. And that passed with a pretty healthy margin.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't really a close race. So it's one thing to say, well, this is good policy because it creates opportunity for young people by making them more hireable in these entry-level jobs. That's true. But how much do you want to fight that fight over $2.70 an hour when that could distract from the much bigger things that are going on politically?
It might be a losing proposition.
Yeah.
Politically. To me, this is one of those things that I could see both sides of it. I do think that it ends up, while it might be of benefit in some ways to the people that fall into that category, 16 and 17-year-olds who $12.30 an hour is still a lot of money for them to be making, and that they're perfect for those entry-level positions. But then what does that do to the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, as we were talking about earlier? And the other thing is, to me, this almost seems like something that maybe should have been part of the raising the minimum wage discussion back when it was being raised, as opposed to going back, because now you're taking something away.
Yes.
Well, the other part of it, having worked as a manager in both the food industry, retail, stuff of that nature, there are quite a few elderly people that, for some reason, managed to get to their age without actually having to develop a skill. So functionally speaking, they perform at the exact same level as some of our 17-year-old new hires are. Why would I want to, I mean, there are discrimination laws and such, but in a vacuum, why would I not just hire the young person that could grow with the company than somebody that is just trying to supplement their income right now while they're getting ready to potentially retire?
Fair question.
Yeah, it is very. And those are, and the thing is I would say the complexities of it, but it's not as complex. I mean, you can read the great thinkers on stuff like this, Sowell, Friedman, people like that.
Yeah.
And they can lay it out in a very, very logical, economically philosophical way. But the reality is that when you make something cost more, you can afford less of it, unless you're already in that upper tier, like the big businesses. Listen, Walmart and Amazon and Target, they love minimum wage laws going up. They love it. And you may say, but they've got tens or hundreds of thousands of employees. It's going to cost them a lot more money. They don't care.
It's scaled. They can do it.
It's on scale, and it makes it harder for their competition.
It does.
But like you said, the whole idea of you're taking something away. There's a 16-year-old, there's a 17-year-old working at McDonald's somewhere who's getting $15 an hour and hearing this and going, wait a minute, you're talking about the government saying that they can give me a pay cut?
Right.
That's not fair.
So I'm going to be making, $60, $70 less a week than I already was. You guys suck, and I'm never voting for you.
Right.
I mean, that's the mentality. I mean, this could all be moot if we did away with the concept of the minimum wage, but I don't think we're there yet.
No, and that comes down to let the market decide. And the problem is, in a lot of people's eyes, when you have a free market, some people win, some people lose. Some people win big, some people lose big. Other people win and lose depending on the day, the week, the month, or year.
No losing allowed.
Yeah.
Everyone gets the trophy. Right?
Economically speaking.
Yeah.
From each, according their, never mind.
Yeah, let's not even go there. We were talking about Valentine's Day earlier, but the following weekend is big too because it is State Lincoln Days in Springfield for the Missouri GOP. Join Tim and Chris live at the Missouri GOP State Lincoln Days in Springfield on February 20th. The event runs Friday, February 20th through the 22nd at the Oasis Hotel and Convention Center in Springfield, Missouri. And on Friday, February 20th, the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show will broadcast live as part of the Mo GOP State Lincoln Day festivities. You can check out event details at NewsTalkSTL, but for tickets and more information, go to Missouri State Lincoln Days 2025.ticketspice.com. I think I'm reading that right, but definitely check it out on NewsTalkSTL.com, and that'll get you there.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Smart people know it. Stupid people may not know it.
On News Talk STL.
One in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobbler's, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
But who's the bigger fool? Is it the fool? Is it the fool that knows it all? Is it the fool that knows it all? Oh, fool that knows it all.
Let's get back to all this madcap mayhem with Mike Ferguson in the morning. But don't forget, stick around for Jones and Arps every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m.
Getting a lot of people commenting on what the minimum wage was when they first started. DMCCB, $3.25, but then also said I was a waitress, so $2.10.
Yes.
Because the tip jobs, you could they could hire you for half of the actual,
Exactly. That's how I know how old people are relative to me. If it was more, then you're younger than me. If it was less, then you're older than me.
Vicky says $2.50.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like I said, it was about I want to say $3.15. I think that's what it was for me when I first did the actual payroll job, and that's where I got a cold shower when it comes to taxes, because I had figured up dollars times the hours worked, and I thought that's what I was going to get on my paycheck.
Yeah, no, I already
and
knew.
I didn't get that on my paycheck. I'm like, wait a minute, who the heck is FICA? Why am I giving FICA my money? What did they do to deserve that?
Nothing. Nothing. Hey, 101 straight up OG. Look at that. 140 when I got my workers permit.
Man.
Did they have electricity then? I'm just teasing you.
Oh,
just because you're like the one person in the room that's older than me.
There you go. All right. Whose fault is it when you spend too much time on social media, or when you develop maybe a warped view of reality because you spend too much time on social media? Whose fault is that?
Donald Trump.
The cyclist. It's always the cyclist's fault.
Okay, so there is a trial that began yesterday. Okay. This is in Los Angeles County Superior Court. And basically, Meta, YouTube, some of those companies, they are facing a lawsuit. They're being sued. The accusation is that their platforms deliberately addict and harm children. Now, TikTok and Snapchat,
Mm-hmm.
they were part of it, but they have settled. So they're not part of this particular trial. So jurors got their, and I'm looking at the Newsmax story on this, jurors got their first glimpse into what will be a lengthy trial characterized by dueling narratives from the plaintiffs and then the two remaining social media companies who are the defendants. And so the plaintiff's attorney, his name is Mark Lanier, he's the lawyer, he delivered the opening statements saying that the case is as easy as ABC, which he says stands for addicting the brains of children, calling Meta, Google, two of the richest corporations in history that have engineered addiction in children's brains. And then he presented, emails, documents, studies conducted by the companies that he says proves that they're looking to basically get kids constantly on their social media. And so they were looking for ways to increase the time spent. Well, that's what a business does, is you want your customers there as much as you possibly can. We've probably all done the thing where we've doom scrolled and then we look up and go, oh crap, I spent how much time doing that? And you lose track of time. We've all done it.
Yeah.
So whose fault is it if we're doing that?
Well, there's not necessarily just one answer. There could be multiple parties as part of the answer. Ultimately, you as the individual, it's your responsibility to determine how you're spending your time. I mean, you've got to make that choice yourself, particularly if you're an adult. If you're a child, you have a little less agency. You have a little less ability to do that. And I do see the underlying issue, which is that when a company goes into a situation like this, like intentionally studying, like, how can we addict people? Like, because that's what they're doing. I think there is a fine line there. It's kind of like, I think about it like with tobacco products. So like, if there's a point where it's like, okay, the studies are showing that this is actually harmful, but we can get more people doing it, it might cross that line.
Let me, because I imagine somebody's going to ask this question. How would that be any different to a candy company saying, we know this is bad for you and rotten for your teeth and your waistline, but we really need to sell more Nerds and licorice?
So I think it would have to be something about like transparency and truth in advertising sort of thing. So if you're talking about a food product and it's labeled properly and says, this contains X, Y, and Z, at a certain point, the consumer is responsible for determining, okay, X, Y, and Z are bad for me, so therefore I am not going to have it or give it to my child. So there would need to be maybe some sort of like labeling in terms of the social media usage, like, studies have shown this can be addictive, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think we see that yet.
Not on social media. I've never seen it.
I guess where I'm going to come down on this is I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I don't think this is necessarily a frivolous lawsuit.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, from obviously a trained legal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there was a Facebook whistleblower that said that there were internal memos specifically targeting people that were under the age of 18 to try to maximize how do we get around regulations, advertising to them, how do we get them to continue using our product more, and that was back a couple of years ago. So this is not exactly a new phenomenon.
Mm-mm.
Even when I first got into college, we took an entire course on the way that social media was intentionally designed to spike dopamine and fatigue you and get you to keep engaging for that. I still say it's the parents. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember seeing cartoons where they had coffee, and I was a little kid, and I was like, oh, coffee must be this great thing. I want coffee. My mom did not give me coffee. She said, no, you're not old enough to have coffee. So I knew it existed. I knew I wanted it. As an adult, I choose to drink coffee because I really enjoy it. Yeah. But as a
Wile E. Coyote had those big stacks of dynamite, and I always wanted those big sets of dynamite. Exactly. Nobody would give them to me.
And so you look at, let's say, like cereal commercials. Why do kids love Cinnamon Toast Crunch, right? Yeah, you don't see 6-year-olds going and stealing money out of their drawer to go buy Cinnamon Toast Crunch at the grocery store, right? It still takes somebody.
Honeycombs, maybe.
Well, honeycombs big, yeah.
Sure.
But you still have to have somebody to be able to enable that for people under a certain age. Now, when you get to be a teenager, I would still say that your parents should do a better job of ingraining you with these values and these resistances to this so you make better decisions as an adult.
So then let me follow up, because I think Jerome brings up an interesting point. We know that the social media companies are saying our business model is to get as many people on our sites as often as possible, eyeballs, ears, as much as possible.
Right.
At what point do you say, well, wait a minute, that's their business interest. Parents, this is on you too.
Sure. No, I think you say that all along. That's why I'm saying there is no not just necessarily one answer here. There could be comparative fault on the part of the parents. There could be, and there's plenty of responsibility to go around. Right. I think where you might get, something that would stick as far as a verdict against these companies is if you can show that they are being deceptive.
Okay.
In what they're doing, as opposed to being transparent. They're up front and say, yes, we want your eyeballs on our site, so we're going to make it as engaging as possible, and that's what we're designed to do. That's one thing. But if they are being deceptive in what they're doing, then they might, subject themselves to that liability. I don't know exactly what, the different requirements of the claims that are being made are. I'd have to do some in-depth legal study on it, but I'm just saying this may not be as, dismissible as you might think.
Well, but this is also a reminder, if nothing else, for parents to, hey, take control of what's going on with your kids.
100%.
Regardless of how the lawsuit ends up
that's important.
Turning out. I mean, that's the reminders, not just, well, hope they get, dealt with so they can protect my kid. You protect your kid.
That's true.
This year, America turns 250, and NewsTalkSTL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. NewsTalkSTL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration, custom foam, and Lee May concrete block. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 101.9 and 94.1 NewsTalkSTL.
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At U.S. Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With U.S. Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
U.S. Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With U.S. Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose U.S. Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. U.S. Med. Better service, better care. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Today's show co-host Savannah Guthrie says kidnapping of her mother Nancy and the ongoing uncertainty about her mom's status are taking a terrible emotional toll on her and her siblings.
We are at an hour of desperation.
Appealing for any shred of help the public might be able to offer and thanking those who continue steadfast in prayer.
God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place.
Investigators say they have not identified any suspects or persons of interest, although the family has offered to meet a ransom demand. Apparently, the kidnappers are not reaching out to the family. Republicans and Democrats bitterly divided over federal agents wearing masks. This as Congress works to avert another partial government shutdown.
Facing Friday's midnight deadline, lawmakers are locked in a debate over funding Homeland Security. And a central question is whether to ban face masks by immigration enforcement officers. The House Democratic leader says unmasking the federal agents is a hard red line in the negotiations. But most Republicans say the current political climate leaves the immigration officers exposed to harassment if their faces and identities are made public. Greg Clugston, Washington.
6,000 San Francisco public school teachers manning the picket lines this morning.
It's the city's first such walkout in nearly 50 years. The strike comes after teachers and the district failed to reach an agreement over higher wages, health benefits, and more resources for students with special needs. The San Francisco Unified School District closed all 120 of its schools and said it would offer independent study to some of its 50,000 students.
And that's correspondent Bill Alexander reporting. On Wall Street, ahead of this morning's opening bell, the Dow futures are down 25 points. NASDAQ futures 4 points higher. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Newsmax, you like Newsmax. I like it too. Newsmax, you like Newsmax. I like it too.
It's true. Millions of Americans agree with President Trump, and they're switching to Newsmax. They're watching great shows with Greta, Carl Higbie, Rob Schmidt, Finnerty, and more. If you're tired of big media, start watching Newsmax. It's free to start. Go to NewsmaxPlus.com for immediate access. Get all of President Trump's most important events live. Imagine watching Mike Huckabee's Israel Report, our Melania documentary, Clint Eastwood, Charlie Kirk specials, even the movie Jesus of Nazareth by Franco Zeffirelli. Once you start Newsmax Plus, you won't stop. So try it for free. Go to NewsmaxPlus.com, then download the app. It's easy. So make the switch to Newsmax.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. Going to be tracking a warm afternoon, mostly sunny, highs back towards the lower 60s, then into Wednesday, mostly sunny, 49 degrees. As we head off into Thursday afternoon, could see some isolated chances for some showers, highs into the mid-40s. By Friday, mostly cloudy, 51. Into Saturday, could be seeing some widespread chances of showers and temperatures into the upper 40s. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Sometimes it seems all lawmakers do is tax and spend.
That's why Missouri voters passed the Hancock Amendment in 1980 to place a limit on what the government can do with your money. But the Hancock Amendment is outdated. It hasn't provided a taxpayer refund since 1999 and probably won't without reform. That's why Missouri needs a taxpayer Bill of Rights. Colorado has one, and taxpayers there have received more than $8 billion in refunds. It's simple. There should be limits on government spending and refunds when there's a surplus in the state budget. A taxpayer Bill of Rights constitutional amendment would help limit the growth of government. Missouri's budget has nearly doubled in the past 5 years, yet the state lags far behind states like Colorado in economic growth. The Hancock Amendment was supposed to protect taxpayers. Now it's time for an update and a taxpayer Bill of Rights. After all, it's your money. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Mike Ferguson.
Is there anything in your life that is not Trauma Olympics?
Susie Moore.
Get out of here and stop playing victim.
Get up, St. Louis.
There's no crying in baseball.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Is the city becoming more or less safe?
That's a very good question.
That I would argue that is the foundational question, or one of the foundational questions regarding the future of the actual city of St. Louis, and by ripple effect, then much of the other region as well. Well, the Show Me Institute is talking about that with some of the other experts, and you can be part of that this afternoon. It is a forum called Examining Crime and Public Safety Trends in St. Louis, and it's happening at the MAC West. But you got to RSVP, and so we'll tell you how to do that in just a little bit. Doors open at 4:30, and among those who are going to be involved and going to be there is going to be Patrick Tuohey, Senior Fellow at the Show Me Institute, who joins us right now. And Patrick, I mean, let's first lay the foundation for this. I mean, we talk a lot about police and the policy and the politics, and but the reality is that in St. Louis City, like a lot of other major urban areas, public safety, the realities and the perceptions drive so many other things like economic development, like tourism, like education and things like that. So what's the baseline discussion and where does that start this afternoon?
Well, good morning. And you're absolutely right. Crime is down around the country and including in St. Louis City. And that's great news. And it's not just a blip. It's been trending down for a number of years now. But public perception of crime is a lagging indicator. And that's not just true in the city of St. Louis. That's true around the country. And I want to understand, why do people not necessarily believe that crime is getting better in the city? And then, what would it take for them to be confident that that is the case? And what would they want to see to believe that that's going to continue in the future? Because you're exactly right. Public safety is the number one job of any city before it can hope to realize any economic benefit or growth.
So there's the way that the wonky egghead types do this, and that is look at a spreadsheet, look at the numbers, and then there's the way everybody else says, well, I'm not going down there at night, or I'm not going down to that area. I mean, I don't know how many people I have had conversations with, they say, I just don't go downtown anymore. I'm one of those like, I'm probably not going to go downtown at night anymore. I'll admit that I'm one of those as well. So there's the application and then there's the academic side of it. Is tonight's discussion or this afternoon's discussion going to be sort of blending that, or is this going to be more data driven?
No, the science is settled, right? Like, we have the data. I just want to talk to people in the county about whether or not they believe it, do they feel it, and what would it take for them to change your behavior? And again, this isn't unique to St. Louis City. People out in the county may have very good reasons for not going downtown. It could be that the things that they would go downtown for in the past, they don't need to because there's been so much development in the county. But I really want to understand, what are those intangibles? For example, it may be that even though public safety is getting better, that, it's the built environment, things like uncut grass and street lamps that aren't working, or graffiti, or sometimes it's just kind of a desolate looking neighborhood where people aren't living in those houses, that gives you the this isn't a scientific word, but kind of the heebie-jeebies. You don't feel safe, even though the numbers tell us you are more safe than you would be. And so that's really what I want to discuss. And it's not, it's not an event where we're presenting data and asking the audience to believe it. We're presenting data, and I really want to know how they interpret it. What do they look for? What information would they need to have to believe that things are getting better? And then part of it, frankly, is I think the public confidence about crime is years behind what the data tells us. And so although it's good that any city is getting better, they're going to have to need to continue to get better for years before that public perception turns. And that's really what I want to talk about. What is the perception, and are people willing to reconsider their view of St. Louis City once they see that things are getting better?
Okay, let me get to the why part of this. You say that the data shows that the city is actually becoming more safe and the crime statistics are better. What would be driving that? What has caused that change over the years?
So that is the billion-dollar question, because we don't know. The numbers are getting better all around the country, and we can't point in the city of St. Louis or anywhere in the country. We can't point to a particular policy that has driven this. Certainly, we know that the number of police officers make a difference. We know that a reliable prosecution rate once the police are, clearing more cases. So we know kind of broadly that, if you're a criminal, knowing that you're going to get caught and knowing that you're going to get prosecuted, that is a real deterrent. But we can't point in St. Louis City or anywhere around the country to something that's really driving this. And that's very frustrating, as you can imagine, from a policy point of view. It's good news, but if we don't know why, we risk investing in programs that aren't working or underfunding programs that are working. And it's not just a St. Louis thing. This is the conversation that's going on around the country. So
if whatever that intangible is, we can't put a finger on it, we can't sort of track it. Is there a risk that whatever that intangible is could go the other way, and we wouldn't know why crime would go up again if we don't have a handle on the why part of it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, for example, a lot of cities, including Kansas City, where I am, and St. Louis, invest in a lot of, violence interruption programs. Some of the research tells us that doesn't really work. A lot of people want to talk about root causes, and that may be valuable, but that's the kind of thing that takes you 10 or 15 years maybe to really see a return on your investment. And the risk is that, if crime goes down and we misdiagnose why, we can put money in the wrong places. Now, again, broadly, I would think St. Louis needs more police. I don't think anybody would argue with that. We need to do a better job of prosecuting people. We need the police to do a better job of closing cases. And so those are kind of the basic things that we've known for dozens, the hundreds of years probably that reduces crime. But there are so many other things, and it can be very frustrating, you can imagine, if you're a mayor or a police chief, to stand in front of people and say, hey, the numbers are going down and that's good. But if the people don't believe it, that's an argument that people can say, well, we don't trust you. We don't trust the data. And, that's difficult to untangle. It would be great if we had some rock solid research that says, X city did this and saw crime drop. But there are so many different variables that go into crime, public safety, that disentangling all that is difficult. And again, I just want to make the point that this is not unique to St. Louis. This is going on everywhere in the country.
Well, and better doesn't mean safe. So is part of this going to be determining where St. Louis in particular is on that scale? Because better than it was before, that's great, but that's not the end goal, though.
No, obviously we want to get down to a homicide rate of 0. We want to get down to a 0 amount of violent crime. That is a great goal to have. I think everybody understands that we don't expect that. Even in the nicer, wealthier communities, there's still an amount of crime. I just want to understand at what point do you get a tipping point, right, where crime gets down to a particular level where people out in the suburbs are saying, no, I'm willing to come into the city. I understand that 10 or 15 years ago it was bad, but it's better now. Because ultimately what any municipal area needs is a strong, vibrant downtown. Even if you choose to live and work out in the county, it's important as an anchor that your community have a vibrant downtown that is drawing people in, either to live there or to have businesses there. And we want to turn it around in St. Louis. And so I'm, again, just interested in that perception. And at what point are people willing to say, I'm going to give the city the benefit of the doubt? The data's going in the right direction, and maybe I need to throw off this perception that I've had for 20 years.
Okay, so the event is called Examining Crime and Public Safety Trends in St. Louis. This is a Show Me Institute public forum that happens this afternoon. Doors open at 4:30. Looks like the event itself probably runs from about 5 to 6, so this is not a real long event, but you got to RSVP. We'll tell people how to do that in just a second. So, Patrick, as marketable as it is to have an evening sitting talking just to you, you're not the only one who's going to be there, right?
No, thank you for mentioning that. So we're going to have Steve Capizzi of the prosecutor's office from the city there to answer questions and to talk to us about what he's seeing. We've got Janet Lawrenson from UMSL, who's a criminologist, and Pernell Witherspoon from Lindenwood, who is also a criminologist. They spend their careers digging into this data, and so they'll be able to give context and talk to people, answer questions about, again, what we're seeing, and maybe they have a sense of the policies and programs that are working where we need to invest more.
Okay, so and just to emphasize, this is interactive. This isn't just being spoken to and presented to the audience. The audience is part of this discussion, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm treating this sort of like a focus group. I have as many questions for the people who attend as I do for our panelists. This is not a kind of, sit politely in your chair, listen to numbers being given to you. Because, again, the numbers are what they are. It's that lagging indicator. It's that unwillingness to believe those numbers. That's really what I want to get to. And the audience there tonight will help me understand it.
Okay, that's happening at the MAC West in Des Peres, which is just off of 270 there. Now, if people still want to attend, they need to get their RSVP in, as I understand it. What's the way to do that if somebody says, you know what, I can run by there at 4:30 or 5 o'clock today?
Yeah, thank you. They can go to showmeinstitute.org/events. It'll be at the top of the page, and there'll be an email address for them to register.
All right, Patrick Tuohey, going to be there tonight. Good chat with you again, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, still a lot going on here as well. Just ahead, man, we could be looking at another partial government shutdown, and how much of this has to do with masks on federal law enforcement. And we mentioned it just a little bit ago, the Freedom 13 Gala is coming up this month, and time is running out to get your tickets to not only enjoy the evening, but also to support a great organization. Go to NewsTalkSTL.com and then find the Freedom 13 slider there at the top of the page. Click there. You can get your tickets and all the information on that page.
Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that? Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
You know, a lot of times we're talking about renovating and transforming your home, and you rightly think about things like, I need a new bathroom, I need a new kitchen, maybe I need some new roofing. But how about this? Imagine the difference that a great deck or a great fence can have for your property. Mike Ferguson here for STL Fence Works. You got to call my friends there, 636-669-1608 to get that custom quote. But it's not even just about the fact that American workers do the work, St. Louisans do the work, that they stand behind their work. It's not even just that. It's also about the materials that are used. These are personalized designs. They are tailored for your property, for your family. And this is durable material that is basically what you're looking at is American-made products that last a really, really long time. You can go buy, just pieces of wood from the home improvement store, and it's going to look nice, but every so often you're going to have to retreat it, you're going to have to restain it, you're going to have to replace parts of it. That's not the case with STL Fence Works. STLFenceworks.com. Get in touch. Tell them what your project is. They will help you develop it. They will give you that custom quote, and they will make your property the resort that it can be. STLFenceworks.com.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Two sounds that can wreck your sleep. A drip and a toilet that won't stop running.
Drip, drip, all night.
Good news. We're doing plumbing now. Same folks, same care, same we do it right.
Leaky faucet, running toilet.
Or a stubborn clog, call Grasser.
Electric and plumbing, the Grasser way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
This Winter Games Update brought to you by Corel Roofing and Best Buy Flooring.
Westwood One Sports presents this special update on the 2026 Winter Games, sponsored by Prize Picks. Michaela Schifrin's debut in Cortina, the slalom portion of the women's combined, and she could not build on partner Breezy Johnson's first-place finish in the downhill. The duo end up in fourth, 0.06 of a second behind Americans Jackie Wiles and Paula Moltzen, who get the bronze. Men's free ski slope style, no repeat for American Alex Hall. He ends up with silver. Also a silver medal for Team USA's Ben Ogden in the cross-country skiing individual sprint classic. Americans Corey Teese and Corey Dropkin go for gold in mixed doubles curling against Sweden today. The duo stunned defending champ Italy in the semis yesterday. And the U.S. and Canada renew their rivalry in women's hockey in the preliminary round. Both are unbeaten so far. With this Winter Games update, I'm Brad Heller, Westwood One Sports.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our clients' portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk. Live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
The Mike Ferguson Show is one of my favorite programs. In addition to Larry Connor's USA, catch my program at 6. Now, back to Mike.
So all Ghislaine apparently did was try to make a deal to get herself out of prison. That's all that whole thing was, yeah. And also, the Illini drop down. The Billikens rise up in the latest college basketball polls. Woo! A lot going on there. All right, 8:22 right now. Let's do one more news dump today.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
You know, they got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
Okay, Republicans and Democrats divided, as you know, over federal agents wearing masks, and that conflict could result in another partial government shutdown. Here's the story.
Facing Friday's midnight deadline, lawmakers are locked in a debate over funding Homeland Security. And a central question is whether to ban face masks by immigration enforcement officers. The House Democratic leader says unmasking the federal agents is a hard red line in the negotiations. But most Republicans say the current political climate leaves the immigration officers exposed to harassment if their faces and identities are made public. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And it's not even just the harassment. There are actual agitators who are calling for literally murder, assassination. You know, what was it that they, what them called violent, what they call it, uprising or whatever they called it a little bit earlier?
Yeah, there was an armed uprising.
Armed uprising, yeah.
Yeah, because there are people that have specifically said get the guns and shoot them, but most of they think they're being clever by saying armed uprising, and it's, no, we know what you're talking about.
Right, precisely. All right, convicted child sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell refusing, as expected, to answer questions during a House deposition on Monday. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer says Maxwell indicated she'd be more willing to testify if President Trump got involved.
Her attorney said that she would answer questions if she were granted clemency.
Yeah, there's no indication that the president's going to do that, nor should he do that. Maxwell was subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee last year. Deposition comes after both Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have finally agreed to testify before the committee after they were threatened with contempt. That's supposed to happen later this month. Whether it actually happens or not remains to be seen.
Well, see, I've heard that Ghislaine likes islands, so I'm thinking maybe the incentive could be we'll send you on a vacation going waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay
there you go.
in exchange for you giving us some names. I mean, that sounds like a fun time, doesn't it?
So there's more information that is available, we know. Congressman Ro Khanna, Democrat out of California, did visit the Department of Justice on Monday to review unredacted documents connected to the Epstein files. That's being offered to every member of Congress, but only members of Congress, not their staff, and they're basically being allowed to look at a computer screen with the files. They're not being allowed to take anything or take pictures or photocopy it or anything like that. Now, this comes after lawmakers, of course, spearheading that effort to pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act last year. Here's Congressman Khanna speaking on Monday.
None of this is designed to be a witch hunt. Just because someone may be in the files doesn't mean that they're guilty. But there are very powerful people who raped these underage girls. It wasn't just Epstein and Maxwell, or showed up to the island or showed up to the ranch.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. That those are good points to say. Just because your name's in it doesn't mean you're guilty. We want to be very, very measured here. But at the same time, it's still a cover-up. There is still efforts to make sure that if they're forced to disclose something, they make it as difficult for people to get through it as possible. The bottom line is this is about justice, not just for the victims, but also to stop the monsters who did this from continuing to not only victimize other people, but to also enjoy a 2, 3, or 4-tier system of justice.
Well, it's also a national security issue. I mean, if there are people out there that know about this and they know who's involved, they could. How do we know they're not saying, hey, by the way, I still have that photograph. I could totally go and start talking to the courts myself, unless you want to sign this for me real quick, unless you want to. So yeah, no, and I agree. There are people that are featured that are not complicit or even knowledgeable of the crimes, but I would argue by them saying, we're not going to investigate this, and also just remember not everybody's involved. All you're doing is feeding the conspiracy theorists online that are trying to look for any excuse that they can, and now people that had nothing to do with it might actually have more damage done to their reputation than if the government would just do their job.
Yeah, sunlight's the best disinfectant here. Okay, this is interesting on the Missouri side. Bills that would allow Waymo driverless taxis, and I guess any other company that decides to get in this market, to operate in Missouri have cleared their first hurdle legislatively in the state house.
Supporters say the technology could expand independence and economic participation for people who can't drive. Lori Becker, CEO of the St. Louis-based Starkloff Disability Institute, has personal reasons for being excited.
Being legally blind and having epilepsy, I've never had the opportunity to get a driver's license to be able to get where I need to go independently.
St. Louis firefighter Tom Mullins says first responders in other cities have already seen problems with driverless vehicles.
Some of these robo-taxis have entered active fire scenes, active EMS scenes, active police scenes as well.
The bills would require companies to submit a law enforcement response plan and report crashes involving autonomous vehicles. For Missouri News Service, I'm Crystal Blair.
These things are coming, whether you like it or not. So it's going to be a matter of, are we going to do it the right way or safe way? Understanding that there are going to be glitches along the process.
You know, and people talk a lot about how Idiocracy and WALL-E were actually secret documentaries. I did not realize Transformers was also a future documentary.
Precisely. All right, 2 area communities debate data centers on Monday. So in St. Charles, the city's Planning and Zoning Commission delayed a decision on banning the centers. So the proposal would be, what was on the table was, we're going to ban these things. We're not going to allow them in the city of St. Charles. Well, that's been tabled by P&Z for 2 months. They're going to come back and look at that later on in the spring. In Festus, there was a petition drive to demand that the question of whether to allow one to be built on annexed land be put on the ballot. So the city annexed land near Highway CC and Route 67, saying this would be a good spot for a data center. Well, there's a petition drive to say, let us vote on it. The mayor pointed out at the meeting last night in Festus, the city council meeting, saying, actually, the law doesn't require us to act on this and put it on the ballot. Your elected officials will make the decision that we feel is best for the city. But that city council meeting, according to a lot of media coverage, was really full last night, and data centers are driving a lot of interest right now.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. I can understand the benefits of having data centers, and especially being a hub for data center development, but it's also the genie's out of the bottle. We still don't know enough about the genie yet to know what the unintended consequences, even just at the consumer level, for electricity costs, water costs, environmental factors, stuff like that.
Noise like that too. Yeah. Okay, so some of the Olympians say this year's medals are very poor quality, and they're breaking. They're actually breaking. The medals are breaking. Speaking from the Winter Olympics in Italy, women's downhill gold medalist Breezy Johnson shares how hers broke when she was celebrating.
Don't jump in them. I was jumping in excitement and it broke. I'm sure somebody will fix it. It's not like crazy broken, but it's a little broken.
You had one job, Olympic medal makers.
They're taking the bronze this year in medal development, huh?
So they are, the Olympic organizers are investigating. All right, the Billikens move up one spot in both of the main basketball polls this week. In the AP poll, SLU is now ranked 18th in the nation. In the coaches poll, Billikens move up one spot to 19th in the nation. SLU, 23-1. The Illini drop in both polls after their overtime loss to Michigan this weekend. The AP has the Illini at number 8. Coaches rank them 7th. Illinois plays Wisconsin on the road tonight. Billikens play Loyola in Chicago on Friday.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You are a bully?
On News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Scott with your first alert forecast. Going to be tracking a warm afternoon, mostly sunny, highs back towards the lower 60s, then into Wednesday, mostly sunny, 49 degrees. As we head off into Thursday afternoon, could see some isolated chances for some showers, highs into the mid-40s. By Friday, mostly cloudy, 51. Into Saturday, could be seeing some widespread chances of showers and temperatures into the upper 40s. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Scott.
Fox News Commentary with Will Kane, next.
If you're over 40 and plan to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've built becomes just as important as growing it. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. They help investors reduce risk by adding gold and silver to their portfolios. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult with your tax or financial professional before making investment decisions.
Here's Will Kane.
Something like 86% of Latinos support voter ID, and 71% of Black Americans support voter ID. Of course, why is that important? Because to listen to Hakeem Jeffries or any other Democrat tell the story, it is the voter suppression targeted at minority voters. They tell minority voters, they tell America, that Black Americans and Latino Americans don't have the wherewithal to get an ID. Meanwhile, those very same people they purport to speak for say, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. You should prove who you are before you vote, which, by the way, would put us in the same pool as virtually every other country on the face of the planet. This is beyond common sense, and it should raise real questions and probably provide the answer. Why would Democrats be so out of touch with every constituency in America to oppose voter ID?
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
When water troubles strike, call the family you can trust. Tim Jones here for Ambassador Plumbing, serving our community since 2018 with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his hand-picked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke. News Talk STL. Until it's not. News, analysis, opinion.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning people.
You know, there was a lot of people had some thoughts on the whole thing with social media, this trial that's starting out in California.
Mm-hmm.
Or started yesterday, I should say. And the lawsuit is against Meta, which owns Facebook, YouTube, some of the others. And basically the social media platforms, and this isn't a new accusation, but they're the defendants in the civil trial saying you're intentionally making young people addicted to your product. And what the remedy for that is, I don't know, And so it brought up the very, very basic question to start. Who's responsible if you spend too much time on social media and it warps your view of reality, warps your view of the world? Whose fault is that? I mean, these social media companies are businesses. They are in the business. They make money when people spend more time on their apps. And is it the social media company's job to say, well, I'm going to protect you from yourself. You need a better life than to spend 8 hours or 10 hours a day on social media. Don't come to our No, that's a gold mine for the social media companies. That's what they're in business to do. That's more advertising that they sell. That's more click-through rate. That's more purchases on Facebook Marketplace or whatever it is they make their money from. So they've got a vested interest in keeping your eyes and your ears on your phone or on your laptop as much as possible. Having said that, a lot of stuff's bad for you. Whose fault is it when you consume it? Okay, that's the basic. Then you get into, okay, but are they lying about their product or not being transparent about their product? And then you get into, this is specifically dealing with young people, minors. And we don't hold minors as accountable as we do for adults for a variety of reasons. But what about the parents? Is it businesses' fault that they were successful in marketing to a kid when the kid's impressionable because they're a kid? Or should they be held accountable for developing young social media addicts who are going to stay with them for life or whatever the new platform is going to be in 5 or 10 years? It's not going to be the same platforms we got now. We know that evolution happens. And so that's basically a lot of what the trial is about. And the argument being made by the plaintiffs, they're basically saying, this is addictive. You're looking for ways to make it more addictive. You're doing focus groups and study. How can we get kids more hooked on this? How can we get more people hooked on it, but particularly young people? And that's what they're suing, and that's what the lawsuit is over the damages that are being created for this. And I also just want to temper that with saying, okay, but wait a minute, what about our personal agency? What about our personal responsibility? At some point, you have to say, it's my decision to look up that social media feed or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think the core, I'm going to be hyper reductionist for a minute, but the core issue that is being presented here that I don't think a lot of people are really acknowledging is it wrong and or should it be illegal for a company of any sort to market something that is very appealing or maybe potentially addictive to vulnerable and or neglected minors?
Right.
I mean, the food company is the same way. You can make a really, really sweet, tasty junk food thing that your body's going to say, wow, this is amazing.
When you were a little kid, what was your favorite candy?
Oh, Kit Kats.
Okay. Laffy Taffy when I was like in grade school. I loved Laffy Taffy. And then later on, it was like licorice and the caramel chocolate bars. I know exactly. Those were terrible for me. I didn't know that as a kid.
Yeah, I loved Captain Crunch. I loved Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I
Oh,
loved all
yeah.
these cereals, and you see these commercials. It's a bunch of happy-looking kids.
Yeah.
They're running around with the cartoon characters. They're having fun of these. I mean, that was what's weird about becoming an adult. Real quick is I don't see like commercials like that. It's all like, hey, get your cholesterol checked with Cheerios, right? But as a kid, because you watch so is it wrong of them to advertise something to a kid? But I mean, I would also argue that the kid is going to be a lot less susceptible if you, as a parent or guardian or whatever, had that safeguard. So when I was young, MySpace was still the big thing. And my mom watched that show To Catch a Predator, and she was afraid of me talking to strangers online. So guess who did not get to have a MySpace account?
So your mom did what she was supposed to do as a parent.
Now, she also had to work a lot, and so I was unsupervised, so that did not stop me from eventually having one, and she knows this. We had to laugh about it. But I also had to then realize, what if my mom goes on MySpace and sees I've got an account I'm not supposed to have? Well, maybe I'm going to be a little bit more secure about not revealing my own identity. Maybe
How old were you at that time?
I was like 10, 11, 12 years old.
Oh, yeah, you weren't supposed to have one at that age.
No, but you just, are you of age? Yes, I am. Click the box,
Click,
right?
yeah.
But the point being is that she did the bare basic amount of, hey, this is why I'm concerned about you not engaging with this. Now, fast forward several years, I have friends that are my age, sometimes a little bit younger. They have kids that are 4, 5, 6 years old sometimes. And whenever we go out to eat, here's the iPad.
Right.
Whenever we're at their house, oh, let's put this cartoon on, so they're just watching this in the corner so we can hang out over here. Well, why is it? So yes, on the one hand, the residual issue is the people that are most inclined, I think, to become addicted to social media, no matter what features you add. I mean, I remade a Facebook and I barely go on it because it's garbage now, but I know people that I can look at their page, hours upon hours of reposting things, arguing with people. I am not as susceptible to that because I live a real life. People that I know that are out in the real world, they will check in. They maybe post what they're doing to keep people informed. They check on birthdays to make sure grandma gets a nice birthday wish. Then they go on with their lives. So I think that the people that are the most susceptible are oftentimes people that are very lonely. They have insecurities. There's something that they are getting from this platform that they don't feel they're getting from real life. And if they choose as an adult to engage with that, I don't think that should be illegal. But when you're a kid and you have no frame of reference, and then you are being allowed, because you're being permitted by the person that's responsible for you to become habitually engaged in this behavior, that habit can then become an addiction later on.
Well, we're talking literal dopamine hits.
Like intentional
literal
stimulation,
dopamine.
overstimulation.
As an actual brain science on this. But then you get the question, like, for instance, I try not to eat candy too much anymore. I mean, I do it every once in a while, but I just try to eat very, very healthy because I've had the results of not taking care of myself and not eating well. Now I eat very well and I feel a lot better and I'm healthier for it. But there was a time if you put, like a red licorice in front of me, man, I was all over it. You put certain chocolate bars in front of me. Hey, love it. Good. It tastes good. It's that immediate satisfaction. And with kids, you get that immediate satisfaction in the form of likes, in the form of content, in the form of, praise, in the form of whatever the case is. So who protects you from yourself? And that's the only aspect of this that I worry about, is saying this is a dangerous thing, this is wrong. Okay, I can agree with that. But I also do not want a censorious government protecting me from myself. And you say, well, a lot of parents don't do the job, so somebody's got to do it. Is the answer still government saying, we are the default authority, we'll decide who we can protect from what when it comes to something like social media? Now, we're not talking about pornography. We're not talking about, violence. We're not talking about self-harm. We're talking about, the stupid addictions. You click on everything and whatever the case is. So I also want to make sure we temper this, because we're just at the very beginning still, even though social media has been around for 10, 15 years now, something like that. We're still in the infancy stage of social media based on what our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids are going to have. This is going to be their way of life. And we want it to be a healthy tool or entertainment without it becoming something that government takes more power over us with.
Now, Corporeal Being makes an interesting statement. He said, the less that individuals of a society self-regulate, the more the state needs to do it. Now, I just want to address that.
Let's talk about the word need. Definitely the more that the government does it.
Because so applying my way of thinking, right? So let's flip the lawsuit real quick. Instead of it being something saying we are going to sue and punish social media people because people are being given access to a product that they are intentionally trying to improve upon, what if the way that the government steps in and says, look, if your kid is addicted to social media or sweets or anything, then you are now going to be charged with child abuse. Mm-hmm. You as a parent will now be charged with child neglect or child abuse because your kid is scrolling on Facebook all day and posting TikTok videos of them pranking people and being a nuisance, right? People would say, well, no, you can't charge the parents for that because
that's a baby step from your kid's fat.
Why is it not child abuse if you have an abused child?
Your court date is Thursday.
Yeah, if your kid is starving, then of course you get hit with a charge. But if your kid's obese and has type 2 diabetes, not because of hereditary issues, but because of the diet you give them, well, no, we can't do anything about that. So why is it that it's okay for the state to step in to punish somebody that is making a better product, that's improving it, that benefits quite a bit of people? I mean, I don't like the reliance on social media, but there are a lot of good things about it.
It's a tool. It's what you make of it. Yeah.
Just like AI. But at the flip side of that, would it still be the same necessity to do so if we said, okay, your kid's addicted to, we checked your kid's TikTok feed and they're on there all the time, so we're going to charge you with child neglect for not providing them a more healthy outlet to develop. I mean, would that be okay then?
Yeah, I mean, my guess is the answer is somewhere in between those extremes, because I think it's pretty clear that these companies are peddling this dopamine addiction, and I think that the plaintiffs are probably going to make the pretty sound scientific and legal argument that that's what they're doing, especially if they're trying to be conscious of regulations and trying to find ways around it. So I think they're going to make that case. That then the bottom line is, okay, what do we do about it that doesn't infringe on the rights of everybody else, including, yes, First Amendment rights, because with rights and freedom come the fact that some people are going to mess it up and do bad stuff.
And yeah, unfortunately, those of us that live in reality can recognize that while everybody inherently should have the same access to liberties and freedoms, not everybody performs and behaves in the same exact way or has even the capacity mentally to make good decisions the same way somebody else does. That's why there are some winners in the market, some losers in the market. Some kids are straight A students and some are dropouts. And
there's some dropouts that have the ability to be straight A students, and they just make stupid choices.
I could have been a lot better in high school. It wasn't until I got into college that I really started getting my act together. But that was, again, there were things I had to unlearn that were bad habits, and there were things that I figured out on my own. And other people I know that were great, accelerating students, they just burnt out by the time they got to be an adult, and now they're not doing anything.
Now, at least in this case, we're talking about a civil lawsuit. We're not talking about criminal charges. So at the very least, I'm going to be more interested in see what happens, because there's going to be a range of whatever the verdict and the ruling, and if they rule against these social media companies, what the penalties are going to be. But it should be a massive reminder to, and who was it? Was it 101 that said about self-regulation?
Corporeal being.
Yeah. So like what Corporeal Being was talking about, the self-regulation is another word for personal responsibility. And we need to be rededicating that aspect. And that means parents, you teach your kids that, because that's part of what parents do.
Now, speaking of the devil, 101 did say, or asks the question, when did parents' culpability for their minor child's actions become a bad thing?
Right.
I agree. Culture starts in the home. Mm-hmm. The person that you become later on is most oftentimes influenced by who you are when you're young. So if your kid's addicted to social media, maybe you should instead, I don't know, download the free NewsTalkSTL app and put that in front of them, so that way they can at least stay informed and have these kinds of conversations to stimulate them instead of just scrolling and liking and whatever else they're doing.
Can you imagine a little kid like listening to the NewsTalkSTL app going, "Mommy, what is self-regulation?" And saying, "Well, this is a good thing. I'm so glad you brought that up," and you can have that constructive conversation because we're just here to help.
Yeah, Mommy, can we go to the Freedom 13 Gala?
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Always be yourself, unless you suck.
On News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that, the stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
The world's best athletes, the biggest stage, the thrill of competition. News Talk STL brings you Winter Game updates 4 times every weekday. Get the latest results, medal counts, and top stories from the games. Stay connected to all the action as our athletes go for the gold. Brought to you by Corel Roofing and Best Buy Flooring. Details at NewsTalkSTL.com. Colombo and Company.
Jasmine Crockett issued a warning to President Trump, and the administration continues to tout tariffs as we wait for the Supreme Court. We'll talk about all of it Tuesday with Crane Durham and Susie Moore.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
I want to kind of follow up on the discussion we had with Patrick Tuohey from the Show Me a Student a little bit. They've got that forum, public forum that's happening, I would say tonight, but really this afternoon. The doors open at 4:30. It's going to be at the MAC West, which is in De Pere, right there off of 270. Now, you do have to RSVP to go there. It's free, but they're not actually just taking walk-ins. So Patrick's going to be there. They've got some, criminologists from, Lindenwood and UMSL, and then somebody from the city prosecutor's office. It's interesting because Susie and I were mentioning earlier, and I thought this was interesting in that they're talking about crime in the city, but the event's happening in the county. And my first thought is, well, does that say anything? But Patrick laid that out. He said, we're talking about the perceptions of people regarding the city, because I will tell you, I don't go downtown at night. My daughter lives downtown, and I hate it. She lives close to the stadium, and I mean, it's a pretty nice apartment, building there close to the stadium. But I don't like it. I wish she would get out, but Patrick pointed out that, and you've heard this argument in the media, that crime rates are down across the country. Murder rates are down. Violent crime rates are down across the country, at least in the big cities. And that's what the numbers say. And, of course, a lot of us just dismiss that, saying, okay, well, then you go walk around the middle of downtown in the middle of the night. See how safe it is. And he goes, there's a lag time before people start to actually believe that. And, of course, my counter was, well, better doesn't equal safe. I'm still not walking around downtown, 11, 12, 1 in the morning in St. Louis. I'm not doing it. Why? Because I'd rather not get shanked. Because that's the common belief. And it would be if that happened to me at 1:30 in the morning, the immediate response is not, oh my goodness, how could this possibly happen? It was, well, what was he doing out there, dumbass? That's the reaction.
Well, and then there's really the city's crime is a county-wide issue, because a lot of law enforcement people that I've talked to personally have said that it's not just a matter of people in St. Louis committing crimes against each other, but a lot of the times these people will go out to other neighboring areas that maybe are a little bit more affluent, with that they don't have as much of a crime, problem. So they're maybe more inclined to leave their door unlocked, or maybe they're more inclined to drive a nice car. And next thing you know, somebody from the city goes out there and does something bad.
Well, one of the things, like, for instance, you look at St. Charles County, they have a pretty low crime rate. I mean, there's little pockets here and there, but they've got a pretty low crime rate. Well, what's the difference? They will prosecute and throw your butt in jail and imprison you there. Whereas for years in the city with Kimberly Gardner, she went out of her way to not prosecute people as much as possible. Gabe Gore is getting a lot of that fixed, and Patrick mentioned that. So it's going to be interesting because this conversation is going to be just that. So if you want to go out there, go to showmeinstitute.org and just look at their events page, and you can get your RSVP for free. But he says this is going to be more like a focus group. So if you go, you're kind of the star of the show, and your opinion is going to help shape what these policymakers are going to be delving into and doing. I thought it was interesting because I've known Patrick a long time, and it's interesting because there are so many people who say, well, look at the spreadsheet, look at the numbers. And people are going to go, yeah, those numbers are better than they used to be. I'm still not going downtown.
Yeah.
I know people who won't go downtown at all anymore. I mean, period. And I used to work in the Central West End. I mean, I used to work down, well, it's not really downtown. That's Central West End, not too far from downtown. But the perception, the feeling is still, this is a dangerous area. You know, I'll go to a Battlehawks game if it's a noon game or a 1 o'clock kickoff. Am I going at 6, 7 o'clock at night? No. I'm not going to the Dome at that time. I'll just tell you, I'm just not. And you can point to the data and say, but it's safer than it was. Great. I'm sure that it is, but it's not as safe as I want it to be before I start doing that sort of thing and going to the restaurants or the bars downtown at night. So better isn't safe. Nobody has a 0% crime rate, but it's still per capita one of the more violent cities in America. And if crime rates are down across the country, that's great, but per capita, we're still maintaining our area. So what do we do about it? Well, that's part of what they're going to talk about. So the fact that it's better is great, but where do we go from here? And that's what I think is going to be fascinating about that discussion.
Well, one of the things I really hope that comes up during this session is going to be, what can we as individuals do to keep ourselves safe? Because ultimately, we have to be our first responders, no matter how safe your area is. It is very much important for us to be able to understand and recognize, oh, this might be a risky situation. Right. That might be somebody just going for a jog, or is that somebody that and how do I deal with that appropriately? Because I don't think anybody wants to be the person calling 911 over every little kid with a lemonade stand. But at the same time, there are times where I've personally witnessed myself, people that they don't have that level of self-awareness. So they're afraid of a lot of areas and certain situations that maybe they shouldn't be, but then they're also not afraid, or they're not keen to the things. And they don't, I mean, I'm not saying we should arm to the teeth and walk around, but I mean, I walk around armed for a reason.
Well, and you look at the city itself. What have we seen in the previous administration? What have we seen with previous policies? And that is defund the police, defund the police, defund the police, don't prosecute, don't prosecute, don't prosecute. And why won't the state lawmakers ban guns? And then they wonder why things fell apart.
That is actually one of the things that has always confused me since I moved here, because I'm from Illinois. You have to go through a whole chain of command to even look at a gun, right? I mean, it's crazy. They don't want you to be able to have any sort of way to defend yourself. You come down to Missouri, and it's like you almost have no excuse not to defend yourself or be able to defend yourself. And then there's the issue, of course, of there are plenty of officers that I've met where they know who the criminals are.
Oh, sure.
They capture the criminals. They endanger themselves capturing the criminals. And then once the criminals get through the court system, it's a slap on the wrist. They're right back out there having to be captured again.
And Kimberly Gardner let hundreds, if not thousands, go without any sort of prosecution. Word got around pretty well. Don't worry about it. There's no consequences. Keep doing what you're doing.
And the point system you guys were talking about earlier last year with there's the individual who was a minor that apparently stole a car and shot at an officer. And that was still not enough points to land a strong conviction against him.
That was at the Foundry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was right there between the Armory and the Foundry. Yeah, that happened. So Gabe Gore is getting caught up on that. And with the state taking over oversight of the police department, that is changing. There are going to be more police officers. So my hope is that someday we look back and laugh at, remember when we were afraid to go downtown? Hopefully we can get to that point. And I believe Patrick when he says, yeah, the numbers indicate it really is better, but people don't buy into that yet. But it's not enough for me to change my position on a lot of it. I mean, I go downtown, from time to time. I'm not going when it's sundown.
So is it reasonable to say that the paranoia and the fear that's still resonant is still valid, it's still justified, it's still understandable? However, with what we're seeing, the direction we're going, don't give up all hope entirely right now. Just give some time and listen to what's being said tonight.
Yeah, and that means, and be a part of that conversation, because where St. Louis goes from here, if they cannot at some point get serious about this aspect, then nothing else really matters.